stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, first item.
Roll call. Council members Baker. Here. Galloway.
Here.
Lennon.
Here.
Piana. Here. Mayor Covey.
Here as well. Thank you. All accounted for. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Approval of the agenda, Your Honor.
Are there any requested changes to the agenda? If not, a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Baker and Piana move and second approval of the agenda as presented. Madam Clerk.
Council members Baker. Yes. Galloway.
Yes.
Lennon.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes.
And Mayor Covey.
Yes, passes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. What's next on the items?
We have our first presentation of a resolution of condolence for the family of Denise Bourgeois.
Yes, if you would indulge, please. Tonight at the meeting of the Ferndale City Council of Oakland County, Michigan, held in our council chambers. Following resolution is to be moved and supported. Ferndale Code Enforcement Officer Denise Ann Bourgeois, 49, of Warren, passed away this past April 1st. Denise was born on May the 3rd, 1960, to Frederick and Wilhelmina Bourgeois. She worked for the City of Ferndale as a code enforcement officer beginning January 5th, 2005. Denise had a great sense of humor and was well liked by her fellow employees. Her stories, anecdotes, and creative Halloween costumes kept her colleagues smiling. Although Denise had a fun personality, she took her work very seriously. She was awarded a fire department commendation in 2006 for preventing a potentially life-threatening situation by discovering a wood-burning stove in an improperly ventilated garage. Her dedication to her code enforcement duties helped make Ferndale a better place to live. And even when her illness became too serious for her to continue working, she inspired her family, friends, and coworkers with her strength and determination. Those who knew her will not soon forget her kindness, spirit, and wit. Denise Ann Bourgeois will be missed by many, but especially by her father, Frederick, siblings, Cindy, Theodore, Sharon, Edward, and Frederick, her mother, Roberta, and her nieces, nephews, and many friends. Therefore, be it resolved that we, Ferndale elected officials, do hereby extend our community's condolences to the family of Denise Ann Bourgeois. Can I have unanimous consent? Support. Support. Do we have members of the family here tonight? Would you like to come up, please, and we'll present this for you. Denise loved working for the city of Ferndale, and as do all of our employees, and she'll be missed, and the people of Ferndale also love Denise. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
We have a presentation by the Ferndale Public Schools.
Good evening. I brought a special guest with me, but I'm going to let him go last. My name is Jessica Stilger, Communications Specialist for Ferndale Public Schools. I have a few quick announcements. Our Board of Education meeting in April, on April 18th, has been moved to the 26th at 7 p.m. at Harding. We have a community conversation about building community in a global age. It is part of our district's diversity initiative. It's coming up April 27th. Author Gary Howard is coming. He's an expert on diversity and teaching to a diverse community, and he is going to be facilitating a community discussion. We are inviting everyone in the community to come out if you're interested. It's at Ferndale High School in the auditorium, April 27th, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Students at John F. Kennedy Elementary are putting on a musical, the Schoolhouse Rock Junior Edition. The community is invited to the performance April 30th, 7 p.m. in the FHS Auditorium. Tickets are $5, and they're being sold at Kennedy, at the Door, or at Pinwheel Bakery in downtown Ferndale. Today, in Chicago, 2 of our board members and a couple of our administrators received a National School Boards Association Magna Award. This award is put on by the National School Boards Association Journal, the American School Board Journal, and it is something that they awarded to approximately 20 school districts across the nation. 330 submissions were put in and across 40 states, and Ferndale Board of Education received this award for University High School for innovative leadership, innovative programming, and in particular, the two college positions that we have there, the College Transition Specialist and the College Success Advisor, which help our UHS graduates transition from high school to college. They help them on campus. They help them find scholarships and financial aid. And we are very excited to receive this award. We are hoping to have a sign up at University High School shortly. And that kind of transitions me into my special guest today. This is Herb Galladay. He is currently the College Transition Specialist at Ferndale High School, and he will be the College Success Advisor in the fall. His current position and then soon position are modeled after the 2 positions at University High School, which have proven very successful. We know because of these positions at University High School that 85% of the UHS grads are currently attending secondary education. And we don't have those type of numbers from Ferndale High School, but in a couple years after Herb's been there, we will, and we will know the success of our graduates. So we are very excited for these new positions, and I'm going to turn it over to him, and he's going to explain a little bit about what he does and what he's going to be able to offer to our graduates.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. Just real quickly, what I'm doing right now in Ferndale High School is I am pretty much in communication with all the seniors about what schools they're interested in attending, what ways are they going about in applying for the schools, and as students completed their financial aid applications, we want to make sure that students are aware of all the resources that are available, including local Ferndale scholarships that are given by community people who offer money to our students, and that carrying on into next year. What I'll be doing is I will be tracking these students as they're in college. For example, if we have a group of students attending Michigan State University, I will go to Michigan State University, have meetings with these students and speak with them about what they're doing, helping them be successful, what resources do they need, whether it be tutoring, financial aid information, student housing, any social aspect of our college life. It's my job pretty much to be a liaison between the students, Principal Herb Ivory, Superintendent Gary Myers, just to let them know how our students are doing and how they're progressing, and things that I can do to help them be successful. So I'm very excited, and I have a very supportive cast through the Ferndale School District, and I just hope that, with the community and the council, we get more support so that we can make college a priority for our students once they graduate from Ferndale High. Thank you.
Thanks, Herb. Thank you. Appreciate that. School board elections are coming up in May, are they not? May?
They are May, you think I would know, May 4th.
May.
Tuesday, May 4th.
I'm thinking it was the 12th, but it's coming up.
Tuesday, May 4th.
May 4th, elections, all right. Madam Clerk, next item.
We have a presentation by Veg Michigan.
Yes, we do. Hi there.
Hi. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, for inviting me tonight. My name is Harry Pianco. I'm the president of Veg Michigan, the state's largest vegetarian organization and host of the annual Veg Fest. Veg Fest takes place this year on Sunday, April 18th, from 11 a.m. until 5 p.m. at Ferndale High School. Last year we had nearly 2,000 people through the doors, and this year we're expecting even more. It promises to be a terrific event. Former Detroit Piston and NBA star John Sally's coming back again. He's a devoted vegan, meaning he consumes no animal products, and he's passionate about how this lifestyle improved his game and his life. John Sally is just one of several fantastic speakers at Veg Fest. We'll have a number of doctors, such as Joel Kahn, who's the director of cardiac rehab at Beaumont Hospital, environmentalists, and others, even kids, talking about how eating a plant-based diet benefits our health, the environment, and of course the animals. Along with speakers, there's definitely going to be a lot of food this year. We have local restaurants, including a number based right here in Ferndale, that will be serving up over 30,000 free food samples this year. There will be national brand samples, exhibitors, cooking and raw food demonstrations, door prizes, and more. Hopefully you all will be able to make it. I've placed a free pass near your seat for each one of you. And finally, just a note about Veg Michigan. Veg Michigan is over 10 years old, and we're an all-volunteer-run 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to promoting the positive aspects of a plant-based lifestyle. We know from research that reducing consumption of meat and dairy products can significantly prevent and reverse heart disease, diabetes, several types of cancers, and other health problems. We also know it's better for the planet in terms of reducing pollution, soil erosion, and carbon emissions. It's also a compassionate and nonviolent lifestyle. Veg Fest, formerly the Great American Meat Out, is our group's main event every year, but we have many other activities throughout the year and a newsletter and other benefits for our members. I invite all of you to check us out at www.vegmichigan.org. There's also brochures for Veg Michigan and for Veg Fest in the back. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope to see you April 18th at Ferndale High School.
Thank you. Before you sit down, we have a resolution that we may want to pass. Councilwoman Baker, would you like to read this for us?
As the resident vegetarian and Veg Michigan member, sure. The resolution, which we would ask for unanimous support on, reads as follows. A wholesome diet of vegetables, fresh fruits, and whole grains promotes health and reduces the risk of heart disease, stroke, cancer, diabetes, and other chronic illnesses that debilitate then kill 1.3 million Americans annually. And such a diet helps preserve topsoil, water, energy, and other essential food production resources. It helps preserve water, our forests, grasslands, and other wildlife habitats, and reduces pollution of our waterways by crop debris, manure, and pesticides. Such a diet helps enormously in reducing emissions of greenhouse gases that produce global warming, and a vegetarian diet helps prevent the suffering and death of more than 10 billion sentient animals each year in the U.S. Veg Michigan, a nonprofit organization promoting awareness of health, environmental, and ethical benefits of a plant-based diet, is sponsoring Veg Fest at Ferndale High School on April 18th, 2010. Therefore, be it resolved that the Ferndale City Council declares April 18th, 2010 to be Vegetarian Day in the city of Ferndale and encourages our residents to explore a wholesome diet of vegetables, fresh fruits, and whole grains.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Could I have unanimous support for that resolution? Support. Support. And could we get a copy of this sent to Governor Jennifer Granholm and also Oakland County Executive Brooks Patterson, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And if you don't want to give up meat totally, you can certainly give it up for a day, give it up once a month.
Yes, absolutely. That's what we preach at Veg Michigan is small steps. You know, one meal a week is great. Great place to start.
Harm reduction. Thank you. Good luck. We'll
Thank
see
you.
We'll see you there this weekend.
And chocolate is still vegetarian, FYI.
Yes, and we have a chocolate vendor there giving out free samples.
All right, Madam Clerk, what's next on the agenda?
We have a presentation by the Ferndale Environmental Sustainability Commission, and Your Honor, I'd just like to say that their Green Tip of the Month will come at our next meeting.
Sure. It is April.
Recommendations, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's that time of the year.
It is. Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. I am Deb Fonseca, and I am here to represent the FESC. The Ferndale Environmental Sustainability Commission distributed a survey in early May in coalition with the Sierra Club, and that went out to all the Ferndale businesses to determine what businesses were taking steps to green their organizations. Based on those results, they were awarded either a bronze, silver, or gold recognition level and a certificate that will be presented to them that they can proudly display in their place of business. There was a fantastic response from our local businesses, and here are our results. Our bronze winners, based on meeting at least 50% of the items on the survey, are Just For Us, Library Bookstore Inc., House Bayou, Majishi Martial Arts, Little Friends of Ferndale, Candlewick Shop, Star of India, Woodward Avenue Brewery, Gracie's Underground, Dino's Lounge, Honey Baked Ham Company, Boost on 9, Charisma Couture, Pinwheel Bakery, and Danny's Irish Pub. Our silver winners, based on meeting at least 70% of the items on our survey, were Foley and Mansfield, The Emery, The Night Move, Maze Bangkok Express, Go Comedy Improv Theater, and Affirmations. And our winner of the gold standard for green initiatives meeting 91% of the items on the survey Congratulations to Boston Tea Room. Items that helped them reach this standard included unplugging items that were not in use, an investment in double glazed windows, low flow toilets and no flush urinals. They use almost 100% safe and non-toxic cleaning supplies. They have eliminated plastic bags and styrofoam, and they purchase local. Also at this time, we, as the FESC, would like to do our annual Ferndale Green Business of the Year Award. Based on the answers provided in our survey, we determined which business is making the smallest carbon footprint in Ferndale based on their size of business and type of business. The 2010 Ferndale Green Business of the Year is awarded to Foley & Mansfield, a local law firm. Foley & Mansfield has made a conscious commitment to invest in green technology and to make every effort to reduce their footprint. They recycle or reuse most items. They use Energy Star appliances, have an insulated water heater. They winterize their building, invested in double glazed windows to save energy across the board. Their water saving efforts are to be applauded. Low flow toilets capture rainwater on site and reuse gray water, to name just a few. Congratulations to Foley & Mansfield on your award. Is there a representative from the firm tonight? Yes. Fantastic. We also just...
Well, I just want to thank the group, council, and everyone else for this award. We take this seriously. We think, as an environmental lawyer, I take those issues very seriously, and let's see where we can go next year and the year after to improve what we do to our environment. Thank you.
Nice job. Thank you.
And thank you to all of our businesses in Ferndale for making steps. We'll be working with all the local businesses to make future improvements in the next couple months. Thanks.
Very nice. If I could take this opportunity to mention that this is Green Week beginning on Saturday. These posters will be going out, press releases. But Ferndale is fully participating in Green Week. Starting Saturday is Craft Day. Vegetarian Day, of course, is on Sunday the 18th. Sunday also, April 18th, is Bicycle Day, asking people to use their bicycles instead of their cars. Monday, April 19th, Butterfly Day. Go to the Kulig Center to learn how to create a butterfly garden. Tuesday, April 20th, is Clean Green Day. Thursday, April 22nd, is the 40th Annual Earth Day, celebrated worldwide. There'll be a host of activities, including events at the Loving Touch Thursday night, and Friday, April 23rd, is Organic Day. So there's a lot going on, a lot of support. We appreciate all the work that the Ferndale Environmental Sustainability Commission has done, as well as Sierra Club and all the individuals in Ferndale and businesses who are working to preserve our planet. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item.
Call to audience, Your Honor.
Call to audience is a 30-minute portion of the meeting, strictly adhered to. We ask that you take no more than 3 minutes and that you may speak on any issue other than items that are on the agenda. We ask that you share your name, where you live, either verbally or written down in the back, and that you follow the modicum of politeness and not impugn the integrity of any individuals. Yes,
hello,
sir.
my name is Trevor Johnson, 1687 West Hazelhurst, and I'm here on behalf of the Ferndale Environmental Sustainability Commission to present this month's green tip, the Green Spring Cleaning. Number 1, use non-toxic biodegradable cleaners as detergents made from renewable resources. Many conventional cleaners are made from petroleum products that have harmful health effects. But don't dump your toxic cleaners down the drain. Call Sakura's Special Household Waste Hotline for a disposal appointment at 1-248-288-5153. Number 2, open your windows while you clean. Fresh air circulation will help improve toxins produced from cleaning products, paints, furniture, and synthetic materials that pollute indoor air. Houseplants such as peace lilies, daisies, and English ivy are among the best plants for producing oxygen and absorbing formaldehyde, carbon monoxide, and benzene. For 2,000 SF House, NASA recommends 15 to 18 plants. Don't use commercial air fresheners. Sprinkle baking soda on carpets before vacuuming to absorb odors. Place herbs, citrus peels, fruits, or cinnamon sticks in a ceramic burner with water and a tablespoon of vegetable oil to make a natural air freshener. Number 5, Make your own household cleaners from ingredients like white vinegar, baking soda, and lemon juice. You can find easy recipes online to replace any conventional cleaning product. But if you'd like to learn more about how to get rid of your household unsafe chemicals and replace them with natural cleaners, come to our next Green Tuesday meeting on April 20th, 6:30 at the Kulik Center, and bring a spray bottle and some sealable containers to take home your handmade products. To read this and other green tips, please visit the City of Ferndale website or the FESC forum at fesc.freeforums.org. Green Tuesday workshops are every second Tuesday of the month, 6:30 at the Kulik Center. Now, if I may put on my other hat that I wear here often, be my farming hat. And the Royal Oak Community Farm is going to be having our Let Us Rock event this Saturday, April 17th. It's going to be 5 p.m. to midnight, and we're going to have bands, beer, wine, and lots of other vendors, food and beer to purchase, $5 wristbands at the door, and it's going to be a great time. I hope to see you all there in support of the Royal Oak Community Farm. All of our profits from this farm are going to go towards the Royal Oak Foundation for Public Education, a place where teachers can apply for grants for extracurricular activities for their students. And we also have shares available for the farm, $6.15 for full shares or family of 4, or $3.35 for a family of 2. All your seasonal produce for...
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Trevor. Appreciate it a lot. That beer will be organic too, right? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Dennis Petruski. I live at 563 West Lewiston. After 26 years at the police department being a patrolman, I retired from the city in 2002 on a fixed income without cost of living adjustments. In 2005, I developed a health problem that requires an MRI every 3 months to monitor my condition. From 2005 to 2009, I've never received a bill for the MRIs I've had. The MRIs were always promptly paid by Blue Cross. In November, I had an MRI. The hospital billed me. I called Blue Cross. They told me the city terminated the clause that I had been receiving and which I retired on. At the same time, the hospital's collection department began to contact me. I knew nothing about this at all. I was never contacted by any city member. I got a bill, I think a month later, to pay for the MRI. Neither my wife or I are deadbeats. We pay our bills. We pay them on time. We were shocked, totally shocked, that the city didn't even notify us of this change. Who is responsible for this? Is this Mr. Bruner's responsibility, or is it the mayor's responsibility? I would really like an answer.
Okay. And that's it. You are at your 3 minutes. Mr. Bruner, anything you want to share on this? Or do you want to wait till the section is over and share all at once? Or
Sure. I can tell you now that the city found out last fall that it had been providing some retirees with benefits that were better than the collective bargaining agreements that they retired on. You were notified then when you were provided with those benefits, and you weren't notified when those benefits were terminated either. So I have subsequently sent a letter to city retirees explaining the changes that were made, and if anybody needs any further explanation as to those changes, I'd be happy to talk to you about it.
Well, the problem is I have contacted the
This isn't the opportunity to talk about
office,
it.
and I just can't
Well,
get
my
a hold of
office
you.
is still in the same place it was when you all retired, and I bet the phone number's the same too, so anybody wants to call or
Yeah, but your
stop by.
secretary says you're never in, so.
Well,
Thank you
we are
very
pretty
much.
busy right now, but I'd be happy to work with you on this issue
Well,
later.
we may have other folks asking, so for the folks in the audience and at home, retirees are still being given their health care coverage?
Yeah, the retirees still have the health insurance that they've been provided in the past. Most retirees, when they retired, the city paid 80%, and they had 20% deductible or co-pays. It was a 10/90 or a 80/20, and the
Okay.
city's been paying that 10 and that 20 in the case of some retirees.
Thank you.
Sooner or later, though, Bob, and I voiced my displeasure at how this whole transpired. I got the same letter that these gentlemen got, too. I got it 3 weeks ago. Now, I see there's something on the agenda regarding this, and I'm going to, obviously, I have to abstain from it. But somebody's going to have to buck up and figure out who did this and how it happened. Somebody owes somebody an explanation.
And could I ask, that item E on the regular agenda, is that in regards to this issue or a different issue?
No, the regular agenda item is in regard to active
That's what okay.
employee health care.
Very good.
There is one issue under the recommended action, the last issue, that would direct the city manager to investigate potential changes to current retiree health care.
Okay. Folks can still speak on it now then, for sure. Thank you. Mrs. Snow?
Good evening. I'm Peggy Snow, chairperson for the Beautification Commission, and I'm here to invite you all to a program on how to attract butterflies to your garden. The guest speaker will be Brenda DeIsaac. She's the co-founder and president of the Southeast Michigan Butterfly Association. The program is Monday, April 19th. It's a week from tonight at the Kulik Center. It's from 7 to 9 in the evening. And Brenda will present an overview of butterfly gardening and plants needed to attract butterflies to your yard. And the Beautification Commission will be providing free coneflower seeds. That's our new city flower. And this will help everybody get some of those growing in their yard this year. And we hope everyone will be able to attend. It's one of the Green Week events, the Monday night Green Week event. I'll have some flyers in the back. Thank you.
Thanks, Peggy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Margaret Taft. I reside at 663 West Hazelhurst, where I have lived since 1929. I'm very proud of it. I'm here on behalf of the seniors. When I retired, I wondered, now, what are you going to do, Margaret? Are you going to sit here and mope around and be bored and do housework? No way. So I joined the seniors. And I've been with the seniors ever since. So, when the old building over here was tore down, the community center, the seniors were kind of moved around a little bit. It's not very nice places, but we put up with it, and we stuck together, thick or thin, which I know that all the departments of the city are going to do to keep the community center going, to make concessions like the community center already has. Julie has done a wonderful job, and we're very, very proud of her. And we're very proud to have a home there, our senior group, that we could have our meetings, our exercises, our luncheons. They figure out all these trips for us to go on so we don't have to stay home. And we just would like to have this continued with all of our hearts. So we just hope and pray that it's not taken away from us, So it would be very difficult to have the center closed completely. Because when a building in a city is closed, it takes years and years for it to reopen again. And we certainly don't want to do that. With our beautiful community center, where some of us went to school there as 5-year-olds. We went to first grade, second to the 5th grade. So we're very proud of that, and we certainly hope that you consider all of us old folks here that like to have good times and to keep it open for us. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Margaret.
Jeannie Davis, 1531 Pinecrest. And I think Margaret's kind of covered the senior need for the community center. There's other needs. They serve Meals on Wheels. They have a teen center. They have a kids corner. They have classes. They have facilities for physical fitness. And they provide a place to meet for nearly all the nonprofits in the city. It's become a gathering place and a staging place for many of our events. But what I wanted to talk about tonight was the tremendous volunteer base that originates from the center. Every event that happens in Ferndale is manned in part by Kulik Center attendees. They're at the Dream Cruise, they're at the DDA Art Fair, they're at Fern Care fundraisers, Music in the Park. We've helped with the library recently. And I have never worked a political campaign, without working alongside other friends from the Kulik Center. So if we close this treasure, we will lose not only a wealth of programs for a variety of people, but we'll also lose a large base of people who are happy to pitch in and help. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeannie. Dennis?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Dennis Hepner. I live at 766 Floridale. I'd like to talk a little bit about economics for seniors. There was an article in the Detroit Free Press on March 25th. And the article was titled, "As more turn gray in Oakland County, there's a push to remarket the area." I'm only going to read part of this article. Oakland County is getting grayer, so it only makes sense to bolster services for the aging, rethink zoning and public transportation, and market the county as a retirement destination. After all, retirees pack a powerful economic punch. $4 million for every 100 who stay or move into the county. There's a tendency to say, "Oh no, you'll need all these services. It will bankrupt us," said Jim McGuire, Research Director of the Area Agency on Agent 1B, which covers 6 counties. Rather, he added, there are net gains to the community. Statistics show senior citizens spend about 92% of their monthly income locally, and much of that money from Social Security to investment earnings come from outside the state. If you close the Kulik Center, the seniors would have no place to go in Ferndale and may go to other communities for their recreation needs. So I ask you, do you really want to bite the hand that feeds you? Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.
Good evening, Joseph William Swears, 1117 Amwell, retired police lieutenant. You're going to get a lot of people like me up here. I have 2 requests. I think I can help you and help the retirees. Number 1, could you please direct the city manager to send out a specific list of where these additional costs are going to be? The retirees are on a fixed income. They don't know where these additional costs are going to come from. I've heard blood tests. I've heard MRIs. I've heard additional tests. We don't know. They're just coming at us from all sides, and nobody knows where they're coming from. So if that could be done, that would greatly assist the retirees and probably stop a lot of us coming up here and asking you these questions. My second request, I would like documentation showing the healthcare coverage audit which discovered this alleged mistake. To the best of my knowledge, this audit and these changes have affected individuals who separated from the Ferndale Police Department 28 years ago. That's 3 decades. How many audits do you run in 3 decades? One every other year, every 5 years, every 10, 15, even 20? To the best of my knowledge, 4 city managers, 3 personnel directors, and 2 finance directors have been here for the last 3 decades. Suddenly this issue's coming up. Mayor, City Council, I would submit to you that this question and my request for documentation is not only logical, but it makes common sense. I would be very appreciative if you could supply me with that documentation.
Sure. Lieutenant Swears, I don't see any problem with that. I don't think anyone in council would. The city manager will, and Jay Murray can probably put together a brief report that will explain how we got there, how the health care audit was occurred. And they're looking for, I think, a copy of the policy, which all of us would want to have. We all have different kinds of health insurance, what's covered, what's not covered. I'm under some new thing that I don't understand, but you got to have it to look at and read it so that you know what you're covered, what you're not covered, what you're expected to pay. It seemed like it would help with budgeting. So, Mr. Bruner, you can let us know the process by which you'd want to get that together in the next 30 days and either provide it to select members of council or to perhaps all of the retirees. All right.
That would be very beneficial.
Sure,
Thank
Lieutenant.
you for your time and attention.
Good to see you, sir.
Thank you. Joe Sullivan, 564 West Woodland, City of Ferndale, 63-year resident of the City of Ferndale. I stood before you at the last council meeting and brought this retirement health care issue to you. I want to reiterate a couple things that Joe Schweers said. What we're really looking for is where are the contracts, where's the language that justifies this, and to suggest, and I want to correct Mr. Bruner, that I represented the council during the 90s when they were offering golden parachutes because of the lack of cash to make payroll. I was at every one of those meetings, and when those officers retired, they were handed a Blue Cross book. There was no confusion in their mind what their coverage was. They were put in their hand. Now, if I may, Your Honor, without to use up 3 minutes very quickly, when I was here last time and I spoke to this issue, and you said something after I was out of the room about staff, well, you know, without putting any spin on this, this started with a dialogue between you and I asking you to investigate the actions of city manager. Number one, are they legal? Number one, does he have standing to do that? I'm a taxpayer. I resent the hell of the idea of paying my tax dollars to defend the city in court for actions that are improper. Now, once we establish whether there's legal foundation for that, this board, by a vote of 3, has to decide now that they can do it, should they do it to the senior members of the police department that gave their best. There's not a man in the room that wasn't honored to serve this public. Not one individual, man or woman working with the police department. To suggest somehow that in this crisis, and I can see there's a crisis. I was at your budget meeting and saw the strain on this board trying to come up with answers. I can see it nationally. I've been reading about this crisis for 5 years and sending documents to the city of Ferndale about this impending fall. So I clearly understand that. But where you have senior members of the police department under treatment, numerous under treatment for cancer and other serious health issues, if you have standing to do that, you have to decide with the conscience of this board and this community, should you do that? They are on a pension system with no cost of living. It's flatline, one of the few in the state that runs that way. The only gain they ever made was in the increase in health care. I put that before you and ask a member of council, please review these documents and these justifications and see whether you have standing to do that. I'd love to get my hands on that. I'm attempting to pull all the contracts in the past 30 years to find out the exact language that would justify that action. And I will attempt to review contract by contract. So, again, your diligence, if I have to come back 100 times, I intend on doing that. So the public is aware of what's going on in this town, too. I don't think they abide by treating the cops that gave their best in this manner. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief. Again, the council obviously relies on its staff. We are all part-time council members and have different disciplines, attorney, community organizer. And we will attempt to get all of that information, and we obviously want to do what is right and do what is legal and do what we have standing and not do anything that is improper. So we're going to get this information, and we'll get a copy to Chief Sullivan. Yes, sir.
My turn. Sorry.
Yes, it is, Mr.
Good
Cooley.
evening, City Council and everybody else. Brian Cooley, 685 Spencer. As Monty Python would say, and now for something completely different. We have Arbor Day coming up. Earth Day is just before Arbor Day, and Arbor Day is Friday, the 30th of April. We're going to be in the Ferndale Arbor Day Forest. That takes a little vision, but it's coming. It's coming. Maybe my grandkid will say, this is the forest. But over at Oppenheim Park, otherwise known as Oppenheim Park, but that's the Ferndale.
By the graveyards.
Yes, behind.
Is that where it is? That's how I know it.
They're there every year. I asked Pete. That's a good thought. No, yes, behind the graveyard, Oppenheim Park on St. Louis, just south of Marshall. You'll see us there. We hope to have some school kids there. We'll have a couple reps from the DPW there. Seniors will join us this year. We'll have people from the recreation department. So we're looking forward to putting in sassafras tree this year. I almost lost the thought of it. It has an interesting leaf. It's kind of like the shape of the Michigan mitten. So everyone is welcome, anybody in the audience. Just two other quick thoughts. There's some interesting information regarding benefits of park and recreation that was forwarded to me. I forwarded a copy to most of council. Councilman Galloway, yours is right here, sir, since the email doesn't work. I didn't want you to feel left out. Any resident that would like to see it, give Julie a call at the Kulik Center, 544-6767. She'll gladly send you a copy. I've made a few. They're in the back on the table. And anyone that's welcome, that's fine. The other thing is it might be something for council to consider, like Royal Oak. They allow residents 5 minutes, although I think 3 is enough. But they don't cut it off. They let everybody that has something to say have their say, and commission sits quietly and listens without responding. And that might be a favorable change for those of us in Ferndale that have to scamper to get here so that we can get in the first time. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Curley. What time is the tree planting?
10 o'clock.
10 a.m.?
10 o'clock.
Thank you.
Yes.
You want 3 minutes, huh? All right. Yes,
Kevin Patrick Sullivan, Ferndale Fire Department, Captain. I'm here to talk about a few things that have been going on. I know the budget is tight, and we're looking at resolutions and ways to fix a tough situation. But with Chief Schmidt is leaving, we have major concerns. A lot of firefighters are getting very edgy in that, and it's my job to keep them from getting edgy, which is getting more difficult day by day. Firefighters put their lives on the line to protect the people and the communities we serve, which are all three, Ferndale, Pleasant Ridge, and Royal Oak Township. They take an effect on the lives at times. Even the survival of our customers are being decided upon by these guys. So we just had a firefighter injured tonight working on someone on a medical run. They can't be distracted by the negotiating tactics and the absence of leadership and direction. So I really hope that the council can stand forth and say we're going to start resolving some issues, because it's really starting to get distracting within our people. Councilman Galloway is not an expert in his own words. At the couple meetings ago, you asked about 113 fires and how many big or real fires we had. Were 12 confirmed by the chief. I would like to tell you that the professionalism of the Ferndale firefighters is what keeps it at 12. There were probably 60 Ferndale fires, 13 Royal Oak Township, and 1 in Pleasant Ridge. Had we not been there in 3.5 to 4.5 minutes, would have been bigger or as big as the 12. So I just want you to know that those numbers always don't reflect in an annual report or statistical analysis on a page. According to the National Fire Protection Association, fire doubles in size every 60 seconds on a medium-moving fire, every 30 seconds on a fast-moving fire, and every 15 seconds on an accelerated fire. And that would be anything with plastics, fuels, or an arson. So we're probably in the 45-second range, which means it's doubling in size. So the quicker we get there with the right staff. Why do I bring that up? Our staff is about as low as it goes to play it safe. And that takes me into shared services and that. There's no money savings in shared services. The services with Hazel Park as the city of Ferndale augmenting Hazel Park as our neighboring community is falling on its knees with its fire protection. Good people, good staff, they're trying hard. They don't have enough people to do it safely anymore. That's why we're helping them. I would recommend that our Oakway and our mutual aid is the best way to go and to keep it safe. Any numbers we lose is definitely going to affect how we do things and where we get, and those numbers will drastically increase. In the meantime, we're still pulling about 1,600 to 1,700 medical runs, which are a big part of what we do also. I do believe in consolidation. I believe that we could have got a lot farther with consolidation that took place before City Manager Bruner was here, and I mentioned that because I believe it was some of the city managers that tanked it. We need government support, maybe orders from the councils of those 4 communities telling their city managers and their fire service personnel what we want out of this. It is a doable thing. We just got to get the right team together to make it done. I think I hit all my points here. And the South Oakland Fire Department, or South Oakland Fire Authority, is definitely the way to the future for fire service, which we would see savings, but the first part and the first time it's going to cost you money, according to Dr. Harvey from Michigan State, who analyzed it in the beginning. And then we had Plant Moran come in, which kind of stuck the wheels of the truck in the mud, and we've been spinning our wheels, and then we're not going anywhere. It's a revitalizable thing, but we just got to get the right people at the right place at the right time.
Thanks, Captain. Appreciate it.
Good evening, Council. My name is Jay Singh. As you know, I'm an assessor. I have been here since last 10 years. I came here to express my gratitude and appreciation to the community. As you might know, I have put in my request for separation from the city services under the city's suggestion in order to reduce operating costs while preserving my, in order to reduce the costs. I came to work here in March 2000. I have served with single-minded devotion to uniformly apply the tax laws and procedures to accomplish the job I was hired to do. A few weeks back, after deciding to separate under the city's plan as suggested by Mr. Bruner, I had submitted to the city manager my proposal to further save money while retaining my experience and dedication to the community through contractual performance of assessing services. Without taking much of your time, I wish to respectfully propose that the council takes my proposal into consideration while reviewing any other proposal. My proposal would benefit the city substantially, probably up to $35,000 to $40,000 additional. I would not want to go into details in case anybody needs any further information, just for the sake of complying with your directive that I should not speak on anything which is on the agenda. Thank you.
We appreciate it. We appreciate your work, Jay Singh. Appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Ann Heller, 1024 Leroy, President of FernCare, here with 2 events that we have coming up. The first one, we have a beautiful poster. We have our dinner on May 6th coming up. It is our 2nd annual dinner at the Royal Oak Elks. We would like to invite everybody to come. Tickets are $40 a piece and $350 for a table of 10. This year, our main speaker is Chris Edwards from Fox 2 News, who's going to talk about why he had to go to Costa Rica for medical care. And the second group is the Raging Grannies of Metro Detroit, of whom Nancy Geddert, a Ferndale-ite of note, is one of the members, and they have promised us a new health care song. So they were just a great success last year, so I absolutely invite you to come. The second thing that we're doing is we on February 8th, which is the Saturday following that, we have a spring clean out. We want you please to bring all of your old medical equipment. We don't care broken, we don't care what, unused medical equipment, and of course all of your medications that you're no longer using, out of date or not. Please bring them over to the Kulik Community Center. Everything will go to World Medical Relief or Wheels for the World, because we're a 501c3. When you drop them off, you have the option of picking up a donation receipt for those things for your taxes next year. So please, May 8 for the keynote on Saturday, 9 to 3, and May 6, 6 to 9 over at Royal Oak Elks for our second annual dinner. Thank you.
Very good, Ann Heller. Thank you. We've only got about 5 minutes left, so if you guys could go as quick as possible, then more people get to speak.
I will be quick. Mayor, Council, Douglas Christie, Ferndale resident, chairperson for the Ferndale Environmental Sustainability Commission. You talked earlier, so I can be quick, about Green Week. I just had a couple points I wanted to touch on. The Bicycle Day, which is on Sunday the 18th, the same day as the Veg Fest, is that portion of it is taking place behind the Woodward Ave Brewery on Woodward Avenue, just south of 9 Mile, and Continental Bike Shop is going to be doing free bicycle checkups. So you ride your bike or drag it up there, and they'll work on it the best they can. You can also catch the Night Moves BioBus shuttle to the Veg Fest from that location also. And we talked about Butterfly Day, the Green Tuesday, and then moving on to the Earth Day, which is a special evening at the Loving Touch. The green businesses that were awarded this evening are going to be invited to that. Of course, council, the mayor, residents, and other people in surrounding communities. We're going to be showing some green movies. They're going to be introducing the organic beer again from the WAB. We'll have vendors, some free food, and other things going on that evening, and that starts at 7 o'clock on the 22nd, which is Earth Day. I'm going to leave some flyers in the back. There is a hotline number, which is 248-709-9301, and the listing of the events can also be found on the DDA website at ferndale115.com, and will also be coming out in some of the local papers next week. So again, I hope to see everybody there at one of those events, if not all of them. Thank you.
Thanks, Douglas.
Good evening, Tamika Brooks, AFSCME Local 998 Vice Chair. I'll be quick. I just want to make sure, or if you don't know, that this body be aware that there is a serious lack of trust between the leadership and the workers. It's very hard to expect something from the unions when there is a feeling of or a lack of respect toward the unions. Case in point, we met a few months back, Local 998, to discuss with the city contracting out the 2 code enforcement officer positions. We understood and we understand that these are grave times, and we agreed that those positions should be contracted out because there's not money there right now to pay a union employee. We agreed because there was a person who was on a leave of absence and we did not want to replace her in case she could come back. We agreed because we didn't want to hire as a whole, hire someone and fire them in this budget. I approached the assistant city manager about those 2 positions, asking to establish some sort of letter of agreement to revisit those positions in the future at the end of the 2011 budget or at the end of the 2012 budget to see if it would be feasible at that time to possibly fill those positions again with full-time union members. And I was pretty much told, I don't believe your contract allows for more discussion on that. You agreed to it, so be it. I'm a little disheartened to see on your agenda tonight another contracted position that we have not agreed to contract or have not come to an agreement with the city regarding contracting. I won't go into more detail on that, but I'm just saying we understand the climate right now, but we want respect. We'll give you respect. We want honesty. It's very hard to ask for concessions from someone where they're not trusting those who are in positions of leadership. Thank you.
Thank you kindly.
Evening, Mike McCullough, 3105 Ford Road, White Lake, Michigan. I'm a retired police officer from Ferndale here. I was born and raised here in Ferndale for 47 years, and then put 29 years at the PD. And back years ago when the 401 was thrown into the mix in contract negotiations, you know, we did a lot of investigating on it, and there was a lot of talk during negotiations about it. And the one thing there was it was explained, it was put in writing that what you had when you retired, you kept or comparable. That is the paragraph. Since I've left, the Medco is the Blue Cross mail order that you can get a 3-month supply for one copay. Well, it was $10 for approximately 2 years, then all of a sudden it jumped up to 20. I questioned it with your staff, your full-time staff, and according to them, Medco no longer offered that option. But I was getting it for $10 before, and then, it's changed. And then according to staff, they said Medco made that change. Well, Medco denies. They said that was at the order of the city. And I've got, there was some, conversation or email in regards to that, in regards to your staff, and I'll provide it for you if you'd like. But things have changed in addition to this other stuff that's come up since September 1st of 09. So this is not just this. Other things have changed prior to the current administration. So, look into that too also, if you would. Thank you.
Will do. We'll find out. Okay, we are going over the 30 minutes. I need you to be as brief as possible.
I'll be brief. Kay Watson, 3209 Inman. Mayor and council, at one of the meetings, you asked Christine from the DDA about contributing some funds to our general fund for our police and fire. I noticed she winced. You didn't ask for a lot. All of our departments have been asked to take cuts, layoffs, retirements. It isn't fair that she doesn't contribute to our general fund. I understand that Royal Oaks DDA is giving $1 million to their general fund in Royal Oak. There's no reason that ours should be so selfish with our city council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Patrick Sheehan, Ferndale Fire Local 812 Union President. Hearing again a lot tonight about concerns of good faith and trust. I hit on it last council meeting, and I guess I'm just trying to make sure that try and quill any rumors if they are false or not. I'm hearing from Hazel Park, their labor union, that there's been talk of their fire union taking over fire protection up to the east side of the tracks in Ferndale. And I understand we've been open as far as about creating a shared service agreement possibly, or consolidation. We have said from day one we're not opposed to looking at everything. I don't believe that if that is the case, then I would say that's not necessarily what we've been talking about. I guess what I'm asking tonight is that indeed what is going on behind the scenes? Because we have not heard anything about it, and if it's not true, then that's wonderful. And if it is true, I guess I would just say that they're over there, as Captain Sullivan had said earlier, they're over there already getting their butts kicked, and they're not able to keep up with what they got. And I certainly don't think the citizens of Ferndale, east of the tracks, are going to benefit by another fire department that's already taxed on taking over their fire protection. Again, I don't know if this is true or not, so I guess I'm asking all of you right now if any of you know anything about that.
There's no discussions going on between the city of Ferndale right now and the city of Hazel Park. If there were, you all would be involved with
that's what we assume, but
we want to explore further consolidation. We want to figure out ways that cities can work together and save money.
Exactly.
We haven't figured that out yet.
Oh, yeah.
You'll be the first to know.
Well, excellent.
I might go see Councilman LaCuro over there and just sit down with him and talk, but.
And again, if you include us and everything, we can.
You got it.
We might have some good ideas.
We are out of time. Patrick Dengate, can you go in 60 seconds, sir?
Yep.
I apologize, but.
I'm not used to lines forming, and I'll jump up quicker next time. Patrick Dengate, I live on West Maplehurst, member of the library board. Real quick, there's another event next Sunday, April 18th. It's a fundraiser for the Ferndale Library. It's sponsored by the library board, Friends of the Ferndale Library, the Society of St. Geordie. There's going to be books, roses, food, wine, music and readings by Michigan authors. So I hope those who can come will come. It's at the library, the temporary location, 642 West 9 Mile. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. So nice to have the seniors here. You've clapped for every single speaker, no matter what they say. Get up and talk about, anything, and you give them one more round of applause. That is it for public call to audience. If there are more folks who wish to speak during call, we can open it back up at the conclusion of the regular agenda items. Madam Clerk, consent agenda, please.
We are to the consent agenda, Your Honor. Item A, approval of the minutes of 5 past meetings. B, approval to adopt a resolution in support of the Uniting American Families Act. Item C, approval to adopt a resolution proclaiming May as Mental Health Month. Item D, approval to authorize Acumed Billing to begin charging patients $39.71 for oxygen when it is used and increase the mileage fee from $9.50 to $10.50 per mile. Item E, approval of contract number 10-5197 between the Michigan Department of Transportation and the City of Ferndale for resurfacing Hilton Road from 9 Mile to Woodward Heights Boulevard. Item F, approval of the Neighborhood Stabilization Program Subrecipient Agreement Addendum Number 3. Item G, approval of filling the part-time budgeted housing inspector position in the Community Development Department with a contractual employee. And item H, approval of the bills and payrolls as certified by the city manager to be paid subject to review by the Council Finance Committee.
Are there any items on the consent agenda that members of council would like to pull?
I would move that we adopt the consent agenda in its entirety.
Is there support for that? Support. We have a motion and a second. City Clerk, vote please.
Thank you. Council members Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yeah.
Piana?
Yes.
Covey?
Yes.
And Mayor Pro Tem Baker?
Yes.
Thank you. That passed unanimously. The consent agenda did. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Your Honor, that would be regular consent agenda item A, consideration to appoint Brian Kramer to the DDA Board of Directors for a term expiring December 31st, 2010.
Correct, and thank you. And that is a mayoral appointment. I did consult with some folks in the downtown as well as on the DDA. Everyone agrees Brian Kramer would be an excellent addition to the board. I don't see him here tonight, but we all see him here occasionally. He's great. Any requests for information on that? Tradition is that we still ask for a council member to move and second the mayoral appointments.
I move to confirm the appointment of Brian Kramer to the DDA board for a term ending December 31st, 2010.
Support.
So that's just a one-year seat.
I think he's filling a vacated seat.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded, Piana and Baker. Any discussion, Madam Clerk?
Council members Lennon? I'm sorry, he's absent from the table. Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
And Mayor Covey?
Yes, that passes. Item B, Madam Clerk.
It would be consideration of special event permit for the Southeast Michigan Dyke March.
Thank you. Mr. Bruner, would you like to introduce?
No, this is the city clerk's item, Your Honor.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
It is indeed. Your Honor, as we have submitted before you, this is a new event this year for the city of Ferndale, submitted by the Southeast Michigan Dyke March. They are asking to hold their event on Saturday, June 5th from 2 until 7:30 p.m. They'll be marching from the City Hall parking lot down West 9 Mile to Pinecrest and then having a rally at Gary Park. Special event facilitator Michael Larry, who is present tonight, met with the event organizers to facilitate the approval process with the Special Event Committee. He also met with members of the Southeast Michigan Dyke March and the Triangle Foundation at a joint meeting to allow those two organizations to discuss their events and discuss their common goals, because this will then be the lead-off to Triangle's Motor City Pride Festival. The Special Event Committee has met with the members of the Southeast Michigan Dyke March. They have addressed all the issues involved. The committee is recommending approval of the event. The Dyke March has requested a waiver of certain fees for council's consideration. The Special Event Committee did not submit a recommendation on that, as that is up to council's discretion. The total fees they are requesting be waived come to an approximate total of $1,175.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And so this event is on the Saturday before Pride Fest from 2 to 7:30. And is there anyone wishing to speak from the organization at all? Or not necessarily, unless there's questions? Oh, no. All right.
I have a question.
I'll have a question as well. Madam Clerk, I know we instituted necessary large-scale fee increases a year ago to cover special event processes and other city costs. So could you said approximately
$175. They're requesting, the police department has suggested that they, actually haven't suggested, they have requested that the organizers have at least 2 auxiliary police officers during the event. The Southeast Michigan Dyke March is asking for a waiver of the 6.5 hours per officer, which is an estimated cost of $275
sorry,
per
auxiliary
officer.
police?
Auxiliary police.
Auxiliary police are free, aren't they?
That's an error, Your Honor.
Oh.
I suggested 2 regulars and
Oh,
as many
sorry.
auxiliaries we could get. That's an error.
Sorry, Chief, appreciate that.
I'm reading from the Dyke March's letter. I apologize,
And
Your Honor.
is the march on the sidewalk or on the street?
It will be on the street.
Okay.
On the north side of 9 Mile.
Okay.
They're also requesting a waiver from the $100 fire department operational permit and a waiver of the special events application and deposit fees of $525.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the request. I also appreciate why we have these fees. Did you want to ask a question, Kate, Councilwoman Baker?
I had a question of the city clerk through the chair. As we look at your, I think you answered it, but as we look at your proposed motion, that if we accept the application as recommended by the Special Events Committee, that is not dealing at all with these fees. This is a separate issue.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted that clarification.
Through the chair, on paragraph 4 of your application, you indicate that you're not requesting a street closure. Has that changed, or so how are we going to march? We're going to march on one lane and stop traffic on eastbound, or I'm sorry, westbound 9 Mile?
There are going to be, like I said, 2 officers, hopefully at least, to have temporary street closures at Woodward, and then each street after that running perpendicular to 9 Mile to hold the traffic back while we march through. And as soon as we're through, it'll open back up.
But are you asking for 9 Mile itself to be closed in the westbound direction?
No, it won't be. It'll be.
You're marching on the sidewalks.
I'm sorry.
No, it's like a funeral where they do stop the traffic temporarily. The march goes through, and then the police officer lets the, you know what I'm saying?
But there'll be a 9 Mile for
Well, if
quite
they're
a while.
walking on 9 Mile, we're going to have cars driving behind you? I mean, so it's a temporary street closure, but it's a street closure, right?
Like a, yes.
And has the application, I guess, has the application been filled out, and was the special event committee considering that you're walking on 9 Mile itself? Because I wouldn't have taken that from your application.
Would you like our event director, Mr. Leary, to speak to that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'm suspecting that that's why the fees are there. If the walk was on the sidewalk, they wouldn't need police officers, so the fees would be much lower. You wouldn't even, maybe even, need some of those fees. Mr. Larry?
Hey, hello.
Councilman Galloway had a
Well,
question.
are they walking on the streets? Are they not? Are we going to have cars driving down 9 Mile at the same time that they're walking? I mean, what is the plan here?
Well, during the committee meeting, that was actually explained by the chief of the police department on, that's why he needed the 2 police officers, so that the street's temporarily closed. Mind you that the march itself is maybe an hour at the most that the street would even be closed, but only in sections. So as they walk, such as they'd have to block off Woodward so they can get across from east to west 9 Mile. And then they would temporarily hold traffic from Allen or from Plantabon that kind of, in Livernois, all the way up to Pinecrest.
So the special event application was filled out improperly?
If that's asking, well, the specific question was if the street was going to be closed throughout the whole day, and that was not the case.
Well, okay, let's take a look at the I guess what I'm trying to get at, Mr. Larry, is whether the committee considered the event in the manner it was really going to be conducted, or whether it considered a different event. So, paragraph number 4 reads street closures, are you requesting any street closures for your event? No was checked, and then they skipped down past all the closure times requested to attendance. So it didn't ask whether it was a temporary closure, whether it was all the streets, some of the streets. It just said street closures. So what was evaluated by the special
through the
event
committee, it was decided that they would be utilizing the street and not the sidewalk, because that was part of the discussion during the committee meeting.
Okay, and so, all right, so
they would be
paragraph 4, perhaps, honest overlooking, but it is requesting street closures, and you are requesting all of 9 Mile, some of 9 Mile?
From City Hall parking lot, that's where they begin.
Okay.
They go out onto the street and then go west to Pinecrest to the park.
And what times is it going to be closed?
From 2 to 3.
2 to 3. And are those the facts that the special event committee evaluated?
Correct.
And clerk's part of that committee, right?
I am, but my deputy was at that meeting. It would probably be in the minutes of that meeting. And I know that they did have the police department's input on that as well.
Okay, am I just not seeing it, or are the minutes from that meeting not in our packet?
They are in the packet.
Are they? Okay, like I said, I'm just finding this.
While Councilman's looking, other questions from folks up here on council?
About the structure of
Anything.
the event permit, I don't have questions about the event content or event permitting. I guess I should say to my colleagues, I asked the the city clerk earlier. There was a requirement in here that the houses around Geary Park get some sort of notification that an event was going on, and I asked if that had to do with the content or the activities, and she said the activity. There's going to be some music and stuff. So that was, I wanted to make sure it wasn't because
Does that always happen
of the
for
content.
art fairs and things?
For events that have speakers and music, yes.
Okay. Cool.
So about the substance of the application, no, I don't have questions.
See, they were very aware that they were going to march onto the street, and they worked out arrangements with the police department for traffic control.
All right, Councilman, do you have other questions for?
Well, I got a question why I don't have the same packet as everybody else, but that's the only question I've got.
But as far as the event, are there any questions you have? I mean, as far as street
Well, as long as
closures.
the event that's actually being proposed was the one evaluated by the Special Event Committee and its approval with some conditions, yeah, I'm okay with it.
Okay, this kind of reminds me of the Take Back the Night marches that used to happen years ago. You're probably too young to remember those, but the women used to have Take Back the Night marches, and I doubt if 9 Mile will be closed for an hour. It's going to be closed as long as it takes for the group of folks to walk by. It could be 15 minutes, but the question is, do we want to okay this event, and also, is it a separate issue about the fees?
That's your discretion.
All right, so if there aren't any other questions for anyone, then is there a motion?
I would.
Can you repeat the answer to that last question? You asked, is it they combined or they separate?
No, they are separate. The Special Event Committee did not make a recommendation on the request for waiver of fees, which I explained earlier.
Yeah, we'll make sure it's done properly.
I'll be treating them as separate in my motion.
Okay. Is this the time to comment?
I haven't made a motion yet.
Except I've already asked for her to make the motion. Go ahead, Councilwoman.
So this is the motion not addressing any issues for waivers of fees, just addressing the application I would move to approve a special event permit for the Southeast Michigan Dyke March as submitted by Southeast Michigan Dyke March with the following condition. A notification flyer must be distributed to all residences surrounding Geary Park, and a copy of the flyer, must be provided to the city clerk's office.
Thank you, Councilman. Is there a second for that?
I second.
Councilwoman Piana seconds the motion by Councilwoman Baker. I just want to share one thing. There was a few folks asking about the name and weren't sure why, you know, that kind of name was used. And as a member of that community, I just want to explain that we often, many times, minority communities take words and take them back and own them. And words that sometimes could be used as derogatory are reclaimed by a minority in order to reclaim the word and show pride. So that's why that name is in there. Councilwoman, did you want to?
I don't have any discussion.
All right. Is there discussion on voting on the motion then?
I believe from the floor. I think you're
Mr. Gagne?
Good evening, City Council, Mayor. First, a couple comments. One is I had a resident ask me, they thought calling it the Dyke Hike would have had a better sound to it. They thought that would be a good promotional thing. I thought that was pretty funny. Second of all, I thought it was odd in both their application or the letter to the council members and in the article that was written in the Ferndale Friends. Let me describe that a little bit. That they said that the Dyke March is this is from the letter to the council, the Dyke March is a needed supplement to the Motor City Pride to heighten the lesbian, bisexual, and transgender community in Southeast Michigan. And to go on from the article written by Mr. Eric Folkmeyer, that to demonstrate the rights and inclusions of lesbians, bisexuals, and transgender individuals who had typically been excluded from traditional Pride events. Many Pride events focus heavily on gay men, forgetting other members of the LGBT community. And when referring to a recent trip to Chicago and Toronto marches, what we experienced was a sense of liberation and inclusion that is unparalleled in our past Pride experiences. It seems to me that perhaps this petition for the Dyke March is maybe misdirected, not so much, and it shouldn't be at the city of Ferndale, but perhaps should be at the Pride Festival organizers for excluding the other members of the LGBT community and making them feel more welcomed. As a admitted and openly heterosexual man, I had mentioned last summer after the Gay Pride Festival that I felt that there was certain exclusionary activities going on at the Gay Pride Festival that would deter families from attending. It takes more than just saying you're family friendly to be family friendly, and I think that Pride Festival is being now suspected of being exclusive both by the LGBT members of the LGBT community and members of Ferndale's own community, that perhaps City Council might take that into consideration maybe on the next agenda item. That's all I have, and I'll save my comments on the fees for that vote.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone from the table wish to speak? Go ahead.
A clarifying question. We had talked a little bit last year when we initially talked about a city sponsorship of the Pride Fest about, you know, well, maybe this would eventually become a City of Ferndale event. Well, that conversation hasn't come back up. So this is not something for the City of Ferndale to mediate what happens at the Pride Fest or what happens at the Dyke March. I mean, this isn't a city-sponsored event. We're working with them to help them hold an event and essentially rent our space.
Sure.
Yes?
And one of the beauties of the gay community is it's a very diverse community. And so the community can have all sorts of events. It doesn't mean we don't like each other. There's a giant black gay pride in Detroit called Hotter Than July. There's a transgender event that's held in the park. So, but I appreciate folks' comments on what they think about our community. Yes, sir.
Could I quickly suggest two amendments, friendly amendments to your motion, Councilman Baker? First, that the flyer be looked at by City Hall for accuracy, not necessarily content, but just accuracy before it's distributed to the residents. And could you please amend that the businesses and the DDA be included in notification also? that may save some irate business members along 9 Mile and whatnot that would be affected by an activity.
By the parade?
By the march. If you're going to notify the residents around Geary Park that this is happening and you're going to close 9 Mile, it might save a few hurt feelings and advance plans for the businessmen to know that you expect to close the street during that period of time so that you have good communication with them. Otherwise, you're liable to have 50 business owners here the week after that saying nobody told us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sharon Chess, and I live on Earl Boulevard, directly across the street from Geary Park. I'm very much a supporter of Pride Fest, and I always look forward to attending that every year. My concern with the Dyke March coming over to Geary Park is my experience with Pride Fest has been in watching the members who attend that festival in their actions and in the way that they are dressed. It's isolated when it's downtown. When it comes into the neighborhood park where the families live and are surrounded by that and the children come to play on the play skates and stuff there, I would ask that anybody that's participating in the march, that they be respectful in the way that they are dressing and in their behavior as well. And I hope that they just practice respectfulness to the community surrounding that area. Thank you.
Through the chair, may I ask a question of the city clerk?
Yep.
As part of this application, because it's being held in a city park, there won't be any alcohol of any type at this event, correct?
That's correct. That's not allowed in city parks.
Just to clarify, it's one major difference from Pride Festival.
No, and I wanted to ask about notifying businesses. When the Green Festival or the Green Parade happens down 9 Mile, do we alert all the businesses that that's going to happen?
The green, or
The Green Cruise.
the Green Cruise, thank you, I couldn't think of the name. We do tend, out of courtesy, to notify the businesses.
I think, if anything, this event is most like the Green Cruise in that it's a temporary moving closure of 9 Mile. That again, even if 1,000 people show up, is only going to take 15, 20 minutes to walk.
Correct.
Having been in those. So, but we can certainly, and I think the DDA would probably help alert our business owners. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. My name is Audrey Long. I'm on the board for the Southeast Michigan Dyke March. Just to talk a little bit more about our organization so that the community members are more familiar with us. We are family friendly, all ages. We have not sponsored a single event that has to deal with 21 up or 18 up. We have people generally from around 14 to close to 70 years old at all of our events. We love all of the downtown businesses, and we've had some really great support, and we have continued support, and people are still coming forward. So we have no problem in contacting the businesses if that is at all an issue, and we would love to get them more involved with anything that we have coming up. We're really excited to bring a number to Ferndale. I lived here for a while, and I'm excited to be spending so much time back here as well. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right, other questions from the table? Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to make one statement that the special event ordinance was written so that it addressed this issue, that no event could be approved without having notification to the businesses. But this sounds like it's sort of a small loophole in the ordinance in that since it is a temporary, quick event, that the applicant is not required under this special event ordinance to actually notify the businesses. So it's not in the ordinance that they have to do this. But what I've heard from you today is that you are willing to take that extra step. And I think you should work with the DDA as well as Mr. Larry on how the best way to communicate with the businesses. So it's just not mailing them a flyer. It requires more action than just mailing them something. So please work with them on how to do that appropriately. No problem.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's vote on this motion.
Do we have an amendment to the motion, or is it?
No, I didn't hear anyone make an amendment to the motion.
I believe the motion included forwarding a copy of the letter
To the city
To the
clerk,
city
it did.
clerk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Ready to vote then? Oh, I hate this new program. I hate it. Council members Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
And Mayor Covey.
Yes, that passes unanimously. Now, is there a motion to waive any of the fees? This is where you're out of luck, I'm afraid. Thanks, Kay. We would love to waive these fees. The city's in dire financial straits. Poor choice of word on that, huh? We're in tough financial positions. We were able to sponsor last year the Pride Festival. I think you'll find probably the next item that we're not going to be able to do that either. The city's probably not going to be sponsoring much of anything for a while. So hopefully with some of the business sponsors and business friends that I know you have downtown, including hit up Brian Kramer and Comos and Club 9, maybe they can help you pay those fees. But again, I'm not hearing any motion to waive the fees. So we're glad you're here. We'll love to have you here. I'll be in your march if you'll have me, and I'll make a contribution, but we're not able to waive the fees at this time. All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item.
Consideration of a special event permit for Motor City Pride.
All right. Is that you?
That is me
Ms.
again.
Tallman?
And this event is very similar to last year's. Once again, this will be held on Sunday, June 6th, from noon until 7 on West 9 Mile between Woodward and Livernois. Again, Michael Larry has met with the event organizers quite a bit. He's addressed all the issues we've had in the past. Special Event Committee has met and addressed issues they had. The minutes of that meeting were forwarded to you. And the committee is recommending approval of the event with certain conditions that must be decided by council. One of those is whether or not to allow the suspension of the noise ordinance, as you do have the discretion to do for special events, and to accept or decline Motor City's invitation to sponsor the event.
All right. Thank you for that introduction. Requests for information from council members.
I guess, why the request to suspend the noise ordinance? Give us a little more information on that. And somebody?
It was suspended last year, and the chief of police at the Special Events Committee suggested that in some ways it makes it easier if it's suspended again for the operation of the event that day, since it is just a daytime event.
I can actually, if I may, Councilman, we've done this every year, and it actually enables the police department to use more discretion in terms of the loudspeaker. Years ago, the event was so loud that folks in the Dales could hear some of the words and the speeches being given. And so, unless I'm wrong, Chief, by suspending the noise ordinance, it allows the police officers the discretion to ask them to turn it down, which then the Pride folks do. And it's sort of a more of a gentlemanly way, I guess, of figuring out where to keep the sound. Is that close?
Yeah, close.
Yeah.
Well, it gives us some flexibility. It also puts the onus on council for waiving the ordinance, and our phones ring off the hook all day, but unless it's completely obnoxious, there's nothing to enforce since you've waived the ordinance. So that's the way we view it, and we get plenty of calls, but if you waive the ordinance, there's not a lot other than completely obnoxious noise.
And this is in the day. This is music and speaking going on, loudspeakers in the daytime. It's over at 7. So the noise ordinance kicks in again at 10 or 11 and goes down in terms of the noise permitted. Does that help answer your question, or not really?
Yeah, I don't remember
two different answers
waiving it
there.
last year. But, so it's your preference, Chief, to have it makes your day easier to waive that?
Yes.
Somewhat.
If we had to respond to every call, we'd just be sitting there turning amplifiers down, because the phones just don't stop. But if we say, city council waive the ordinance, unless we can rely on another nuisance ordinance that we do have, And we generally get good response from these folks, so. It's how you want to walk the line.
Through the chair,
Yes.
I have a question, clarification. Can you talk to me about what the consequences are if the ordinance is enforced? That means you would be issuing tickets, correct? And this flexibility allows you not to issue those tickets, right? Is that my understanding?
If the ordinance is waived for normal sound ordinances, right, we can't issue violations. But if the ordinance isn't waived, we have every prerogative. But we treat it just like everything else. If you don't waive the ordinance, we'll ask people to be quiet. If they don't comply, then we follow up. That's just, I mean, that's the way it works with all noises. If we come to your house because your stereo's too loud, we don't walk up and write you a ticket. We ask you to turn it down.
And again, it is in the daytime, so there are complaints, but the noise ordinance is it's got a high threshold in the daytime. Just think of the Dream Cruise or anything else where we hear sound, music. You could call and complain, but it's that day of the summer that you're going to hear sound, noise, music.
Okay. And part of this justification is that there are other more important things for the police to be monitoring and following up on that day? I mean, is that a correct characterization of?
Yes.
Okay.
With 50,000 people downtown, we're a little busy.
Okay.
All right. Other questions from the table regarding this issue?
I have do you want to talk about the DDA, or do you want me to? Do you want to?
If you want to talk about the, I had one more specific.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Melanie.
I would like to request that the Motor City Pride Festival at least contact the houses that are along the alley behind the beer tent. People have garages back there, and some of the beer vehicles were there last year, and if they weren't quick enough to see that they had to get their car out for the day, they wouldn't be able to get their car out for the entire day. So you need to let them know that there's going to be some access problems in terms of getting into their garages in some way. So that was brought to me specifically last year, prior to me being on council. So if you could consider that in terms of addressing some of the neighborhood concerns along there.
I see that we have a representative from the DDA. Oh, do you want to?
No, I
sorry.
thought you wanted a response, or well noted.
Well noted. All right, the DDA had a couple letters for us up here.
An email about tent arrangement and tent layout. I see that there's, the discussions about how to organize tents so that you can still see and access the businesses were going on at the same time that the discussions were going on with Motor City Pride, because we encouraged Pride to come earlier this year and get things sorted out, which they did. So I guess as long as they can still fit the number of tents that they need in this configuration, and obviously you're working with the fire marshal about access, my request to the DDA would be, once you get this sorted out, I would like it to, whether it needs to come back to council, I'm not sure, but I'd like it to somehow be integrated into the special event form, so that we know that events that happen in the DDA have this sort of tent layout suggested configuration.
That is our goal.
Okay.
And we've been working with Mr. Waite, and he's been very cooperative, and we're quite sure we can work it out on this one, and we'd like to have some templates in place so that everybody is happy. Because we love events, but we want to make sure our merchants get all the business they can. So I'm just here to answer questions if you have any about that. We just want to make sure it was part of the record that he would work with us, and he has met with me, and we get along great. So.
You're on. Does Mr. Waite back that up?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I have a question, though. How come this email is dated Monday, April 12th, so that's today. How come this stuff comes to us so late all the time?
We did not have a representative at the special events meeting through a fault of our own.
Okay.
And so we did a follow-up with it, and I was not able to work with Mr. Waite until we had scheduling conflicts. And so this was what we could do. It was not the fault of the businesses that we didn't meet. We felt that we still needed to represent the businesses.
My second question, and I already know the answer, it's rhetorical, but Cheryl Lynn Tallman, our clerk, worked on this special event process for 6 months and created a really nice process, and it just seems like...
And the DDA, Your Honor, had input, and in fact, we postponed the vote on that policy so they could go back to their board and ask for more recommendations, and never did this come up.
So
And it definitely is council's discretion whether or not you want to add this to the special event policy. It is a city policy, not a DDA policy.
And I'm open to it. I don't really like stuff to come the night of a council meeting and then to have to craft resolutions up here at the table. So, go.
Well, I agree, Mayor. We got this at the 13th hour, and all the work Cheryl Lynn put in on this. We should never have something like this about tent placements in front of us. We should have either approve or disapprove the application. I don't care where you put the tents. I don't care if you put them on the roof. I don't, you know? Yeah.
I understand that, and I do apologize. I don't have a good response for you except to say that we felt that it needed to be represented, that the businesses had complained to us loud enough that we felt that we should take a step to try to correct it.
Well, I just think that they should have complained.
Pardon me? It should have been,
Yeah, the festival's been going on for 10 years in this town, so I understand, I have sympathy, but I also think as a business owner, if you got 40,000 potential customers downtown, you ought to be pretty happy and figure out a way to get...
It's great foot traffic. I don't disagree with that either.
All right. Other questions from the table? Are we looking for a motion then? We are then.
I would move to approve a special event permit for Motor City Pride as submitted by Triangle Foundation with the following conditions: to allow suspension of Section 2-98 of the City of Ferndale Code of Ordinances. Do I need to read it, City Attorney?
No.
Okay. And to direct the event organizer, the DDA, and the City Event Committee to come to an understanding about tent placement, and for the DDA and the City Event Committee to work on integrating that tent placement into an updated city event policy for council review and approval.
Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Okay.
What did I do?
Questions, comments? Does anybody have a problem with the motion? I guess not.
Well,
I don't know.
well, my discussion point is this tent placement. It seems like it varies from event to event. They're starting to get some standardization, so I'm not sure if we're very prescriptive here for the Motor City Pride event, that we're making that applicable to all events. And so that's where I would like to see, if we put it in there, Kate, that are we making all events follow that?
I guess all events in the downtown, overall, I would like tents to be placed in such a way that you can still easily access and see our businesses, rather than those long corridors with the backs to the businesses. If there's another placement that pleases the fire marshal and...
Pleases the fire marshal as well.
Yeah,
That's the
can be
way
a
I took her
compromise.
motion,
Okay.
that
The
this
fire
could...
marshal's on the committee, so...
I've interpreted it slightly different, but
I took it as specific for this event, but that it could then, recommendations could be built into the process for special events.
Which would then come back to the council for review and approval.
All right, discussion? And so there's nothing in there about sponsorship or
I didn't-
waiving of fees,
That was
correct?
not included in my motion.
No other discussion, Madam Clerk?
Excuse me, Mayor. Now time to speak regarding Pride Fest. I'm curious, great to have the Pride Fest back. Last year, there were numerous complaints about, and again, even tonight, about some of the behavior that's seen at the Pride Festival. Specifically, remember last year we had women that were walking around topless except for their badges, covering their breasts. We had men dancing in their underwear out in the middle of 9 Mile. I think that's all fine and dandy, women dancing in their underwear, but I expect a $10 cover, and to have it inside not in some place where a cabaret license is required, not out on 9 Mile. I would appreciate it. I'm curious if the council would be willing to make sure that the Pride Festival organizers exercise perhaps some restraint and know what authority and direction the police are given in terms of if we're going to let a wonderful revenue opportunity like noise ordinance tickets go by, what direction or authority you want the police would have in making sure that indecent exposure and other those types of nuisances are addressed during the festival, or what the organizers will do to make sure they are self-policing.
Good evening, David Waite with Triangle Foundation, Motor City Pride. I'd like to thank the council for considering our proposal again this year, and also the Special Events Committee for reviewing and working through with that process. I do longer application, but it was a much easier process than last year, and I appreciate that. Just quickly, the way the fees are, we're roughly going to be paying about twice as much as we did last year, so I hope you will consider our request for sponsorship. It is less than we asked for last year, and we would still be paying about $5,000 more than we paid last year. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, David.
Good evening, Duff Mahan, East Woodland. In regards to decency, I'm a straight male. In regards to decency, men dancing in their underwear, I don't know if Mr. Gagne's been to Europe, but that's kind of par for the course on the beaches there. I don't find it very offensive. And as for a white male feeling unwelcomed at an event or not family, that's, again, a little laughable. So I think last year was fine, and I would encourage the council not to enact any other type of restriction on the festivities.
Thanks. We actually have the same laws that pertain to all of us all the time pertain during the festival. I think there were people dancing in bathing suits and things like that. I don't think there was any underwear, but Mr. Waite, you guys could self-police that, could you not? And just simply break no laws?
Yes, we police that along with the local law enforcement through that process, and we have some other rules that we have implemented because of the chipping that took place last year.
I swear I'll never do it again. Me and Michael Steele, chairman of the RNC.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
If I could hear the reading of the part with the tents to make sure that we're clear on where we are with that as it goes through, and then I may have a follow-up question.
Yeah, you could try to explain that. My understanding was that we asked that you meet with the DDA and work with the Special Events Committee to try to come to an accommodation on tents.
Okay.
I don't think there was forced language forcing you to do anything different, but we're asking you to think of ways that you might not back up to the businesses.
And we have had that meeting, and we do have some steps that will help with that process as
Am I
we
right,
move forward.
Councilwoman?
Absolutely.
Is that your intent?
Just wanted to make sure. Thank you very much.
That's as it pertains to the Pride Fest. The rest of the intent of my motion, which the city clerk might be able to read back that rambling motion, was that after Pride Fest, where we will come to the best accommodation possible, the DDA will work to formally include some suggested diagrams in the special event application packet, which would come then to council for review and reapproval.
All right, Madam Clerk, could we have a roll call on that motion?
Certainly, Your Honor. Council members Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
And Mayor Covey?
Yes. So we passed the application for the permit with those recommendations and requirements. Now, is there would be a request for a motion to waive some of the fees and/or sponsor the event. Is there a motion for such?
Not this year, sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Waite. There is no motion on the table to sponsor the annual Motor City Pride Festival. Money is extremely tight this year. You'll have to hit up the sponsors and get more donations from the community. But we're glad you're here. We're glad you're coming. We wish you luck on it. Madam Clerk, next item.
We have consideration of snow removal issues, which include 2 proposed ordinances.
Thanks, Your Honor. As you may recall, this winter you posed some questions to staff about this, how the city enforces our snow removal ordinance I provided you with some information on the current state of the city's ordinances that address snow removal, and asked if you would like staff to investigate other options. At its March 8th meeting, the council directed the city attorney to research those issues and bring back some recommendations, and he has done so. And so I will turn it over to the city attorney to talk about those.
Thank you. Your Honor, as set forth in my communication, there are two principal issues that I raise in my report. One is if there's any methodology that could be implemented for the authorized city employees who are allowed to issue appearance tickets, who are other than police officers, who, in order to issue an appearance ticket, require certain additional information to have that appearance ticket processed through the 43rd District Court. I suggest working with the Secretary of State. They do have a commercial lookup database, which normally is of no charge to municipalities, which would allow for those authorized employees to gather the necessary information from that database. It is a two-step process, though. They would also have to confer with the assessor's office to determine the actual identity of the property owner whose adjacent sidewalk has the snow or ice on it, in order to determine the owner, to then gather the information through the Secretary of State's database. Second issue was what, if any, enforcement efforts beyond appearance tickets could be done or considered by council, and the proposed ordinance amendment changes that I have prepared for your consideration would provide that in the event that a adjacent property owner did not remove snow by within 24 hours of the notice, the city could remove such snow or ice from the sidewalk, and the costs associated with that would go to the adjacent property owner.
Is it possible you could say that again in real simple language?
Right. Right now, the current ordinance provides that if snow falls during the day, a adjacent property owner has until noon the following day to remove the snow or ice. Right now, there's no enforcement mechanism in the current ordinance for the city to undertake such corrective action. There's a number of, right now...
Then police can write tickets, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't remove the snow or ice.
True.
Right now, the police, the building officials, housing officials, the rental housing inspectors, along with certain employees of the Department of Public Works, are authorized to write appearance tickets. The problem has been that the data that is necessary to write those appearance tickets is not readily accessible to anyone other than the police officers. And so there is a database through the Secretary of State which would afford them an opportunity for those other than police officers to get that information. That's an administrative process to gain access to that database. The second issue is as it relates to the actual removal. Above and beyond writing the appearance ticket, if council wished to amend the ordinance, it could provide that if notice was given, additional notice was given, that the snow hasn't been removed, that the ice hasn't been removed, if it's not removed within 24 hours of that notice, then the city could, similar to grass and weeds, remove it.
Right.
Costs associated with such removal would then go to be a cost chargeable to that adjacent property owner. The charter does provide for an express penalty of 10% above and beyond the expenses associated with that, if the council wanted to implement that ordinance amendment.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know why I didn't get it the first time, but so is there interest in council in pursuing this? In other words, having some appropriate amendments made and have the city attorney, maybe through the ordinance committee, bring these back to us prior to next winter?
Good question.
Go ahead.
As you've discussed them, and I believe we've got proposed ordinances here, Would these also apply to businesses? One of the problems that we have in our downtown is that the city doesn't remove snow. The business owners, well, the landlords, but they generally defer that to the business owners, are required to remove snow and ice on their properties. So when things build up, when it becomes unsafe, are you able to enforce this ice removal and snow removal on, is it only in residential or is it throughout the city?
It's throughout the city, but it's on the owner of the property.
Right.
Because you can't assess to any type of charge that's not paid would go to the property owner. Typically, a lease agreement would provide that it may be the building occupant's responsibility, but that would be a matter between the owner and the occupant.
Yes. That was my only question. I wanted to make sure it applied throughout the city. It's very useful downtown.
So is there any consensus on council? Would you like the ordinance committee or the city attorney to?
There are drafts of that that are included in your packet. It's a pretty straightforward draft.
Would it be appropriate, Mayor, for us to accept the drafts as written tonight? Or I'm not sure who's on the ordinance committee.
It's myself and Scott.
Yeah.
Do you need more, would you like more time to review?
Well, my only thought on it, through the chair, if I may, is the noxious, or the vegetation, the weeds and the grass growth, that's pretty predictable. If you own property, you know that, when it gets warm out and it rains a little bit, you're going to have some of that, and you can plan for that. The snow, I think, is a little bit different. You could be on vacation, you could be out of town, you could be elderly and not have arrangements for someone to shovel the snow. While I think it's important that we get the sidewalks cleared in a timely way, I can just sort of hear the outrage already for the elderly resident who couldn't figure out a way to do it, for the person who's out of town, so I think it's perhaps something that the ordinance committee can discuss a little bit and come up with some means to make it a little less onerous and
Maybe a warning, first warning or something, perhaps. Do you want to send it to the ordinance committee for further deliberation?
Yeah, I suspect just the if Mike and I think about it a little bit and talk to Dan, I bet we can come up with some simple, fix.
All right, something that might address the problem, and begin to address the problem without being overly onerous on all of us. That might be.
I would move that we refer ordinance 1089 and 1090 to the ordinance committee for further consideration in light of tonight's discussion.
Support.
Thank you. Motion made, seconded, Galloway Baker to. Any discussion? Yes. Madam Clerk?
Council members Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Baker? Yes. Galloway?
Yes.
And Mayor Covey.
Yes, as well. Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item.
We are to consideration of health insurance cost reduction proposals.
Mr. Bruner.
Thanks, Your Honor. Back at the March 8th regular council meeting, the City Council directed me to provide a report regarding employee and retiree health care coverage cost-saving measures. I'm going to run through that report in a presentation format tonight. Thank you. I'm going to touch on what the cost factors are, talk about our current plans that are provided to city employees, outline a proposal for a new plan to be provided to current city employees, talk about the potential savings that would provide in the upcoming fiscal year, and then touch on retiree health care at the end. First of all, you have to understand what are the cost factors that drive the city's health care costs. With our health insurance plans, we do not currently have premium co-sharing, but that is a potential option. First of all, you have to understand that the city doesn't actually pay premiums. We're self-insured. However, a lot of employers have implemented the measure of having employees share in their cost of their health care by having a payroll deduction out of each and every paycheck, a certain set amount. So that's what we're going to refer to as premium cost sharing, even though the city doesn't actually pay premiums per se because we're self-insured. The second is the co-payments that employees make, deductibles, out-of-pocket maximums. And then on the prescription drug side, you have the formulary and the co-payments. And I'm going to provide a definition of each one of these. I already explained premium cost sharing. The co-payment is a fixed amount or a percentage of the Blues approved amount, and this definition comes right off the Blue Cross Blue Shield website because they are our administrator. You'll see the Blues referred to a couple times. That the member must pay a provider for a covered service. Deductible is the dollar amount members must pay the provider for covered services before the Blues payments begin. So at the beginning of every year, employees have to spend a certain amount out of their own pockets before their coverage kicks in. So that's on the front end. On the back end, if you have a really bad year, then you may reach your out-of-pocket maximum, which is the highest dollar amount a member or family must pay in combined co-payments and deductibles throughout any given year. Now on to the prescription drug plans. An approved drug list or a formulary is a regularly updated list of FDA-approved medications that a plan may cover based on the benefits provided in the plan subject to the terms and conditions. Now when we talk about prescription drug plans, there are generally two types of formulary. There's a closed formulary, which means that the plan only covers prescription drugs that are on that approved list. It's closed. And then open formulary, which means the plan will cover any prescription drug that's been approved by the FDA. And that's what we currently have. Lifestyle drugs are medications that treat non-life-threatening and non-painful conditions such as baldness, impotence, wrinkles, or acne. I've had some bald men challenge me on whether or not that is indeed a painful condition. We won't debate that here. But lifestyle drugs in general are, as it states, non-painful, non-life-threatening conditions. And then the co-payment is the amount that the member must pay for a covered prescription drug. Now our current plans, our current health insurance plans, we have 3 of them, and this gives you a side-by-side comparison of our Community Blue PPO 2 and Community Blue PPO 3. And the slash 10% and the slash 20% refers to the percent co-payment, which has been bolded, and it's about halfway down the slide. On the 2/10%, the employee has a 10% co-payment. On the 3/20%, the employees have a 20% co-payment for most services. As I indicated earlier, there's no premium cost sharing in either of these plans right now. You have $10 office visits, $50 emergency room visits, a 10 or a 20% co-pay for most services, and then the deductibles on Plan 2 are $100 for individuals and $200 for family, which means you only have to spend $100 out of your pocket at the beginning of the year before your coverage kicks in, and then that's $250 and $500 under Plan 3. And then once your coverage kicks in, the annual percent co-payment is maxed out at $500 for individuals and $1,000 for families on Plan 2, $1,000 for individuals, $2,000 for families on Plan 3, and both plans have an annual preventative care limit of $500 per member. So once you have a baby, for example, as I did 3 years ago, you go to the doctor's office for a lot of baby well visits, you're going to hit that $300 preventative care limit for your new child, just as an example. So moving on to Plan 3 and 4, this Plan 3, you already saw it. It was on the right side of the slide before. Now it's on the left side to just show you the incremental change as we move from Plan 3 to Plan 4. Again, no premium cost sharing. Co-payments are the same. Here the deductibles double between families, individuals and families under each plan. And your annual percent co-payment dollar max also increases by about 50% from one plan to the next. But the annual preventative care limit stays the same. And these are, I think, arguably all pretty good plans. The current drug prescription plan that covers all employees, just one plan. We have an open formulary. All prescription drugs are covered. $10 generic co-payments, $40 co-payments for brand name drugs, including lifestyle drugs. Any questions about our current plans before I move on to the proposed plans? Everybody understand those definitions enough, at least, to work through this? Okay. The proposed Community Blue PPO plan that I'm proposing is the same as the Plan 4 that we have now. It's 4/20. That's on the right side of this slide. The co-payments are higher than what we currently have. But this slide compares the current Community Blue PPO Plan 2, which is the best plan the city offers, provides the most coverage with the lowest deductibles, and the majority of current city employees are in this plan. And then it compares it to the proposed plan. So again, not proposing any premium cost sharing, and we can get into the reasons for that if you want to. But the co-payments would go from $10 office visits to $30, and from $50 emergency room visits to $150. This is intended to stop people from going to not stop them, but incentivize them not to go to the emergency room for routine care. If you have a cold or something else, go to urgent care. Now, I happen to think that our current $10 and $50 co-pays is enough to do that, because when my daughter was sick while we were on vacation in February, we went to urgent care and paid $10 instead of going to an ER to pay $50. But by increasing those co-payments up to $30 and $150, it'll incentivize that kind of behavior even more. The deductibles move up from $100 to $500 for individuals, $200 up to $1,000 for families. The annual co-payments, percent co-payment maximums triple from one plan to the next, and the annual preventative care limit stays the same. So as I said, this Plan 4 is a plan that's already in place here at the city. There are 4 city employees who currently have it, myself included. The only proposed change here is that the co-payments would go up from $10 and $50 to $30 and $150. Any questions about the proposed health insurance plan?
These are for non-union employees, correct?
Well, when we get to the recommended action, what I'm going to ask the council to do is to approve this proposed plan for non-union employees effective July 1, and the city would begin negotiating this proposed plan for all union employees.
So we can only influence this plan for non-union employees, council, but for unionized employees, it's a negotiating issue.
Correct.
And how come there's 3 or 4 different plans? Is it because of when different people started and we've become more conservative as the years go by?
Yeah, in past collective bargaining negotiations, instead of reducing current employee health care, the unions negotiated to keep health care the same for current employees and reduce it for future employees. So as new people were hired or came on board, had less years of service, they received the lesser benefits.
And then do the non-union employees, do we tend to replicate then for them what the union employees get?
Yes. The 81 employees who are currently covered by the PPO2 plan is a mix of union and non-union employees based on seniority.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. Questions for Bob? All right, continue.
Okay, the new prescription drug plan that I'm proposing for all employees would take us from an open formulary system to a closed formulary system, have $15 co-pays for generic drugs, $50 for brand drugs that are included on the formulary, but non-formulary brand drugs and lifestyle drugs would be excluded from coverage. If you want Viagra or Cialis, you're going to have to pay for that out of your pocket. The city's not going to pay for it, just as an example.
Could I ask what a non-formulary drug might be? Would that be a specialized drug?
Generally, it is.
Be very expensive?
Yeah, it could be very expensive, and there's also generally less expensive alternatives available. There are different brand drugs that treat some of the same conditions. Some cost less, some
A lot of
cost
times
more.
it's name brand versus generic.
I just wasn't entirely sure what non-formulary, I understand it's not on the list, but I wondered what it might be.
Name brands usually.
Yeah, it's definitely a brand drug, but there's some conditions for which there are several brand drugs that treat the condition, and the cheaper ones are on the formulary, and the more expensive ones are not.
Okay, proceed.
So one of the things I wanted to point out here is that the city has a flexible spending arrangement, allows employees to be reimbursed for medical expenses. So as employees are being asked to contribute more to the cost of their health care, they can do so on a pre-tax basis through this voluntary program. Myself and a lot of other city employees already participate. So the annual deductibles that you see here, $500 for individuals, $1,000 for families. If you break that down over 26 pay periods in the course of a year, we're asking employees to contribute $19 or $38 per pay period to the cost of their health insurance, which is not premium co-sharing, but it's another way of looking at it, where employees can make those voluntary elections on a pre-tax basis out of their paychecks.
It's voluntary.
Yeah, entirely voluntary. But this just shows how those annual deductibles break down over the course of 26 pay periods. So the potential savings, if we implemented these plans citywide, all employee groups effective July 1, and I don't have any delusions that that's going to be possible necessarily, but for the sake of argument, the health insurance plan would save $427,000, and that's all funds, not just the general fund. It includes employees that are in the water and sewer fund and other places. And that's the equivalent of saving 4 positions in next year's budget. The prescription drug plan would save $86,000, and these are based on projections. As I indicated earlier, the city doesn't pay premiums, so we're self-insured, but these are based on estimates from Blue Cross. So the prescription drug plan could save 1 position. Total savings is more than $500,000 a year, 5 FTEs. You break that down, it's about 20% other funds, 80% in the general fund. So $410,000 is about 13% of next year's $3.1 million deficit. $400,000, it's a lot of money. In the scope of our deficit, it doesn't solve the problem, but it is certainly a nice bump in the right direction in terms of bridging that gap. Any questions about the potential savings before we move on? Okay, retiree health care. This retiree health care is even more complicated than active employee health care. But first of all, you need to understand what city employees are provided with retiree health and prescription drug coverage. As you see here, beginning in 2004, the city went about negotiating the elimination of this benefit. It was eliminated for non-union employees in 2004, AFSCME employees in 2006, police officers in 2008. Firefighters and contract is currently open, so they're still, if we were to hire a new firefighter tomorrow under this current contract or expired contract, they'd be provided with retiree health care. Police command officers are also provided with this, but that's a little bit misleading because our police command officers work up through the ranks from the patrol officers union, so it's not as if we're hiring outside command officers and promising them retiree health care on their way in the door. Employees not provided with retiree health and prescription drug coverage are court employees. My understanding is they just never were provided with that. Non-union employees hired after 2004, it's been eliminated. AFSCME bargaining units, clerical and technical public works, it was eliminated in 2006. And police officers hired after 2008, not provided with retiree health care. So these are the cost factors that drive our retirement health care costs. The first is the vesting period. That's the minimum years of service that an employee has to serve the city in order to become eligible. And then the eligibility age, the age at which they become eligible, which ranges between age 47 and age 60 in the various bargaining units. And we'll look at a chart that shows that next. And then we have what I call plan changeability, which means that under our current system, most employees, and you heard some of the retirees who spoke today talk about this, they're promised that when they leave, when they become eligible for retiree health care, their coverage is locked in at that time and never changes. So that's why we have retirees now who have a $2 drug card, because at the time that they retired, the co-payment was $2, and they keep that as long as they're covered, regardless of what happens with subsequent collective bargaining agreements.
Do we have those now? We have those people now?
Which people?
What you just said. People whose plan never changes.
Yes, we have a lot of people most retirees, because that's the way the city had been providing health care for a long time, is that it was locked in, it was not changeable once you become eligible for it. The other option, which the city of Ferndale has begun implementing, is that the retiree plans change to mirror active employee coverage. So as the city makes changes in employee health care benefits, the retirees enjoy those same changes in their benefits. They're not provided with better benefits or less benefits than current employees. They're provided with the same benefits. So that's often called mirroring. I'm going to refer to it as changeability in this presentation, but those terms are the same thing.
And that mainly applies to people who've been hired recently.
Correct.
2004 or not.
Yeah. The city only recently began mirroring health care plans, and we'll get to that in just a second. So this is a chart that shows the vesting period and eligibility age. The blue bars are the vesting period. You see that we have vesting periods as low as 10 years for non-union employees who reach age 60, and as high as 30-year vesting period for some of our AFSCME bargaining units. And then you have the eligibility age, which ranges between age 50 and age 60 for various bargaining units. The bargaining units that have rule of 75, I've oversimplified 25 and 50 here for the purposes of this presentation. It is possible to have a different combination of age and years and still meet that rule 75, but this gives you the flavor that on the whole we're providing retiree health care benefits to employees who have some combination of between 70 and 85 years in their vesting period and in their eligibility age. So changeability. On the health, these two issues are treated separately, the health insurance plan and the prescription drug plan. On the health insurance plan, we have negotiated changeability or mirroring with our AFSCME bargaining units, our clerical and technical employees and our public works employees. Currently, we do not mirror firefighter, non-union employee, or police coverage. On the prescription drug plan side, we've got the AFSCME bargaining units as well as the police bargaining units, but the firefighters and the non-union employees are not currently mirrored. Any questions about that before we move into recommendations? Okay, I'm not recommending any changes to the vesting period or eligibility age for non-union employees or anybody else. Trying to reduce healthcare costs by changing the vesting period or eligibility age is an all or nothing proposition, because either an employee is vested for healthcare or they're not. So I don't think it's a very effective way of attacking the problem. Instead, I think changeability is a more reasonable way to go about it. And I'm proposing implementing non-union health insurance and prescription drug changeability effective on July 1 of this year, and continuing to negotiate changeability with our unions as soon as possible. The last recommendation, which does not involve current employees, involves current retirees, is to investigate whether or not there are potential changes to prescription drug plans that we offer our current retirees. This is an area where some cities have gone to court and lost on some issues, and I'm certainly not proposing following in their footsteps, but I believe there may be an opportunity to change the way we provide retiree prescription drug insurance that would not deny retirees their coverage, but would deliver it in a way that's more cost effective for the city. I think that's it.
Okay, nice presentation. And it might be helpful to create something like this for the retirees that have been coming and talking to us about their plans and feeling that things were changed. Is that a possible way to address that down the road at another investment?
Yeah, I think so.
Because it seems like it helps, exciting as it is. Are you looking for direction tonight?
I have recommended action includes 7 things. One, as I indicated, to implement both the health insurance, the proposed health insurance program, and the prescription drug program. Implement that for non-union employees effective July 1 of this year, and to begin negotiating both those programs with our union employees as soon as possible. Also, to implement the changeability or mirroring with non-union employees effective July 1 this year, and negotiate that with the unions as soon as possible. And finally, to investigate potential changes to retiree prescription drug plans and report back to the council on that before taking any further action.
Sure. All right, I understand. Councilman Lennon is going to recuse himself from these votes since he is a retiree.
I think these have the potential to affect me, although, I mean, I know which way I'd vote, but you wouldn't like it, so.
I'm going to move over when I vote then.
Unfortunately,
Actually,
I have to
I don't
recuse
know that,
myself.
yeah, this may not affect you.
This has the potential to affect me.
Number 7 does.
I know number 7 does, so.
Yeah.
You can recuse. Oh, here she comes.
As it's been proposed, nothing would be changed until it's been brought back to council for further discussion.
Right, but if these actions are approved, if some of these are approved, then it will affect me.
The first 6, no.
The 7th will.
Yes. But not before council addresses that specific one again.
I'm just going to recuse myself at this point.
Okay. Questions from the council? Again, your presentation really answered all of my questions. We've talked a little bit about this informally. Yes? Is there, yes, Councilman?
How did you come up with the proposed amounts for the co-pays? From 10 to, what was it, 10 to 40 and 50?
For drugs, you mean?
Yes. Oh, for drugs, yes.
That's a good question. I'm going to give you an honest answer. And the honest answer is that the city manager and the assistant city manager were prepared to propose larger numbers, and were advised by our labor council that he couldn't negotiate those larger numbers and he couldn't win them at arbitration. So we went with the program that we felt was defensible at the bargaining table and in front of an arbitrator.
Those numbers are sort of where most are going now. I mean, that's where.
Well, as I indicated, the Plan 4, that's a plan we already provide. Mm-hmm. That's a plan I have, the city clerk has, other new city employees have. The only change is in the office visit and emergency room co-pays, because we're trying to incentivize folks to go to urgent care rather than the emergency room, because it's cheaper for the city.
Any other requests?
A question for the city attorney, as if someone makes this motion, do we need to read the entire motion?
No.
I'm sorry.
Do we need to read the whole thing?
Well, you can, no, you don't, as long as you make reference to the memorandum identifying it.
Okay. It's just long.
It's a good question. Councilwoman, why don't you, would you like to make a motion?
You know, it might bear reading because it is
You don't
important.
have-
It is important information for the community to hear. So I would move to direct the city manager to do the following. And all of this is spelled out online in the presentation in the packet. Number one, provide all non-union employees with Community Blue PPO Plan 420 health insurance effective July 1st, 2010, or as soon as possible thereafter. Number two, negotiate Community Blue PPO Plan 420 health insurance for union employees as soon as possible. Number three, provide all non-union employees with a closed formulary prescription drug plan with $15 copayments for Tier 1 prescription drugs and $50 copayments for Tier 2 prescription drugs, effective July 1st, 2010, or as soon as possible thereafter. 4, negotiate a closed formulary prescription drug plan with $15 copayments for Tier 1 prescription drugs and $50 copayments for Tier 2 prescription drugs for union employees as soon as possible. Number 5, provide non-union retirees retiring on or after July 1st, 2010, with the same health insurance and prescription drug plans provided to non-union employees. Mirror non-union employee and retiree health insurance and prescription drug plans. Number 6, negotiate health insurance and prescription drug plan changeability or mirroring for union employees and retirees as soon as possible. And number 7, investigate potential changes to current retiree prescription drug plans and provide the City Council a report and recommendations.
Thanks, Councilwoman. Is there a second? Support. Thanks. Any discussion?
Just that even the not as good benefits are as good or better than mine at Wayne State, so.
Yeah, they've got me or what I got now.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Seems pretty common.
I'm certainly not going to debate the aspiring healthcare costs or the city's need to try to control those costs. But I think the immediate short-term focus of this proposal by the manager is directed at a handful of very senior non-union employees, most of which have 30-plus years of service to this city. And I think it's going to be seen in the short term for what it is, and that's a push out the door for those senior employees. I think there needs to be some consideration for them. Most of those 30-plus year employees are going to retire within a year or two anyway, and I think this really, the timing of this is very poor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Your Honor, I thought a lot about that issue and have discussed it a lot with non-union employees, first at a meeting on this issue specifically and again at a subsequent staff meeting. And, you know, I wrestled with whether or not to propose implementing the mirroring for non-union employees now or later. And what it came down to for me was this. Right now, there's an opportunity for folks to voluntarily separate or retire and receive cash payments to do so. And folks are weighing that option very heavily. And that is a difficult choice that folks have to make. What I did is I tried to imagine if I was in that situation a year from now, if we didn't implement mirroring now, and the City Council did decide to do it next year, for example, then if I was in that situation, I would have stayed for another year and lost the opportunity to take that cash payment. So the only thing I know for sure is the city cannot continue to provide the same level of benefits indefinitely. It's got to change. It can change today, it can change tomorrow, next month, next year, but it's going to change. And I think that it's better for everyone involved if we change it now and get on with it. Employees can decide whether they want to stay or whether they want to leave, and that is an important and a serious decision that everyone has to make individually based on what is right for them and their families. And I just don't think it would be very fair to those folks to keep them around for another year or another 2 years with the false hope that this change can be held off indefinitely. So I am sensitive to the position that folks are in. It's something that I've thought about extensively and made this recommendation with that in mind. Certainly, I don't expect everyone to agree with the recommendation, but it is what it is, and it's been made with those considerations in mind.
Sure. Thanks, Bob. For me, I guess I still see there's plenty of opportunity for choice here, and it allows people to make choices and make decisions, and the pain is being spread, and that's a fair way to do it. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Certainly, Your Honor. Council members Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Lennon?
He's abstaining.
I'm sorry, Galloway?
Yes.
And Mayor Cubby?
Yes. Passes. Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item.
We are now to consideration of assessing services contracts with Oakland County.
Speaking of changing the way we do things, one of the things that the assistant city manager and I were examining was the potential for outsourcing the city's assessing services to Oakland County. The way the city currently handles its assessing services is those responsibilities are split between Oakland County and the city of Ferndale. We wanted to examine the costs and benefits of fully outsourcing those services to Oakland County, and we're prepared to do so, explore that option with the city through the budgeting process, but our hand was kind of forced when Mr. Singh gave us his 2 weeks notice last Monday. I know he came and spoke at the call of the audience, but I don't see him now. So he did indeed provide me with a proposal to contract the assessing services to him. That was before he gave me his 2 weeks notice last Monday. So frankly, I didn't know he was still interested in being contracted those services. He didn't express that to me until tonight during the call of the audience. But in any event, it is my recommendation and the recommendation of the assistant city manager to outsource those services to Oakland County. And Ms. Hubanks can tell you a little bit more about the costs and the benefits of doing so.
So we're in the request for information. How does that compare to what Mr. Singh was asking you to consider? He asked us to consider his option. Do we have that?
No, you don't.
Do you know if it's even close, or is it something we should
Well,
consider?
Jane Marie can...
Hi, Jane Marie.
Hi. Close? No, not really. The contract offered by Oakland County was for $150,000. The contract offered by Jay Singh, including what we already do now with Oakland County, would be $141,000. So there's a difference of $9,000. But for that, he only expects to be on site here 1 day a week. We already have to have a considerable amount of the treasurer's services that position is supposed to provide.
Can you bring the mic down a little bit, Jane Marie?
Be picked up. So for the difference between the two contracts, we have a number of professionals that will have as resources at the county, as opposed to one professional with one individual, as well as I'm not sure that the single most important revenue maker for the city should be in the hands of a single contractor. It's safer to have it with the county. Certainly the numbers match up in a number of other areas. The fact that in Oakland County, 22 out of 30 cities contract with the county. 13 out of 21 townships contract with the county to provide assessing services. It makes sense to do that.
So your belief, J. Marie, Mrs. Eubanks, is that this $150,425 is a good deal and will result eventually in savings for us?
It's the better value, the better investment, as well as in staffing. It will save us about $50,000 overall.
Questions for the city manager or Ms. Eubanks?
I just have, how does this change the experience for a business and a resident coming in to use assessing services? Can you just explain that a little bit?
Well, our assessing services are available online as far as looking up comparable properties. That is all online. We contract with Oakland County and BSNA to provide those services. If you'll recall, about 2 years ago, we started providing that service for free. The city picked up the cost to provide that for free. So people will not perceive the difference as far as what information they can access. What will happen different is they won't be coming here to provide some of the services that the counter help do now. We'll still take their property transfer affidavit forms, other forms, we'll take them, we'll forward them on to Oakland County. We will not be skilled or nor would I recommend that we answer specific questions. That is what we would be paying for with Oakland County. So they would make the contacts. We would have reference material available for contact numbers if anybody came up to ask, but we would not be answering those phone calls here.
J. Marie, what about when folks appeal their property tax assessments? Will that happen in Pontiac then?
Well, border review would still happen here. The county would send out staff. And MTT, Michigan Tax Tribunal, if somebody decides to appeal the border review, those are handled by the county. And in fact, a lot of those appeals happen. They don't happen here. They happen at out locations. So.
But the initial request would still happen here? The
Yes.
border review?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
In the information that we received, 2 positions are discussed in addition to Jay Singh, the director. Is it from you, Jean Marie? It is. The memo discusses a clerk that would be reassigned.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, it seemed that Ms. Brooks earlier indicated that rather than a reassignment would be an elimination. And I wondered if you could talk about that, or maybe you can't, or how does this impact?
Effectively laid off, since that job would no longer be available in that position. But that person has probably about middle in the seniority pack. It's probably the single job that we have the most of. It's clerk typist 2. So that person would be able to exercise seniority rights and bump another position. You know, they can bump laterally or they can bump down. So there would, you know, given that they're about halfway in the seniority pack, they would likely not lose their job. It would be likely that they would be reassigned to somewhere else.
But someone else might further down the line? Is that
someone
sort of
further
how it
else
works?
down in seniority would be laid off?
City manager, I know that our timeline was moved up a bit on making this decision because we need to have assessing services in place by next Friday. Is there any accommodation for dealing with the clerk issue as part of negotiations, or do we need to take care of all of it tonight?
No, I mean, that issue is not subject to negotiation, but the council approving this contract in the short term is not going to have the effect of anybody losing their job. We've already proposed reorganizing the clerical staff in City Hall to have a pool situation. So we're already moving in that direction. The adoption of this contract is not going to lead to any additional losses layoffs, position eliminations in addition to what's already been proposed.
I just wanted to try and understand, because Ms. Brooks did come up earlier, so I wanted to try and understand how that fits in.
Nobody's
the
going to
things
be
that you're
laid off
currently
tomorrow if the council adopts this today, is the net effect on that bargaining unit is
Because
0.
negotiations are ongoing.
No, because we already proposed eliminating positions in that
Okay.
bargaining unit as part of next year's budget.
Right.
So whatever happens will be in relationship to the budget that the council adopts, not as a result of this contract.
All right.
Very good.
I don't see that we have.
All right, other questions? Thanks, Jane Marie Eubanks. Is there a motion then?
I've been making them all night. Someone else's turn.
I'll move to approve the contract with Oakland County to provide full assessing services for a parcel cost of $13.60 per reel and $12.40 per personal property parcel, estimated at a total contract of $150,000, $425 a year.
Support.
Well done. Councilman Piana makes the motion. Councilwoman Baker seconds. Discussion. All right, another type of change for the city of Ferndale. Madam Clerk?
Council members, excuse me, Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
And Mayor Covey.
Yes, passes. Thank you. Next item, Madam Clerk.
The second contract with Oakland County, this would be renewal of the assistance services contract with Oakland County Equalization Department.
Who's going to introduce?
It's included
Is that
with
on-
item 7F.
No, I think that was that's a
I don't have that,
earlier.
actually.
I don't have that either.
Yeah, we don't have
I'm sorry, that was just for reference, so that they would know what we have now, so,
Okay.
Oh.
sorry.
I believe
Very
that's
good. Then the
Well
next
then.
item, Madam Clerk.
Because the new contract includes everything
Fantastic.
have
We are
now.
on to the appointee report from the city manager.
Appointee City Manager report.
Thanks, Your Honor. Given the late hour of this meeting, I will just point out the fact that the report is included in your agenda. I will answer any questions you may have now, or you may follow up with those later.
Very good. We can talk with you via email. You could even touch on it at a future meeting. That would be fine as well. Thank you. It is late. We've been here for 4 hours. Madam Clerk, next item.
Council liaison reports, if any.
Are there any liaison reports from anyone? The mayor's dinner was postponed for April, I see. It was going to be in Royal Oak. It's been canceled. Anything from Suburban Alliance or any of the other groups? No? Very good. Madam Clerk, next item.
Moving right along, we are to call to council.
Thank you. Chief Schmidt from the Ferndale Fire Department. Anything else you'd like to share tonight? Thank you. Chief Michael Kitchen, Ferndale Police Department. Thank you, sir. Julie Hall, Recreation Director. Marcia Shear, CDS Department Director. Keeping you up late tonight.
Yes, and I apologize, I didn't get up to call the council fast enough. I want to update on the census. These are the numbers, the percentages. As of today, we are hitting about in the 66 to 74% range. National average is 65%. Michigan average is 71%. It's interesting to note that the most participating city in the entire nation is Livonia. Okay, but the state of Michigan is tied for third place. So please, everybody fill out your census.
Get in your census. Everybody got their census filled out? Yes?
It was fun.
Mike?
Yeah.
You lose it? You did it? You sent it in? All right. Everybody get it in. It helps. Thank you. Am I missing anyone back there? Mr. Dino? Sherilyn? Nothing?
I have nothing, Your Honor. I was just pointing out that DPW Director Fatides is in the audience.
Byron, where's Byron? I don't
He's
there
out
he
of
is.
place.
I'm sorry. I got to wear my... Thank you. I'll put these on. That'll help.
And I have nothing, Your
Nothing,
Honor.
Sherilyn?
No.
City Manager? Mr. Christ?
I was served with a lawsuit against the city on a sidewalk case this afternoon. which I'll be providing to the city administration tomorrow.
Don't pay it, Dan.
Ice, snow, or something else?
It was
No.
just slip and fall, yes.
Okay. All right. Councilwoman Piana.
I just have a few comments, and I just wanted to let people know that City Council is taking some really difficult, is making some very difficult choices about health care, and I know personally from experience, as well as my family, who are retirees as well, everybody's under pressure, not just with cities, but everywhere, and private retirees, and I wanted to let people know that I'm conflicted. It is a difficult decision. And at the end of the day, my responsibility is, as city councilwoman, to make decisions on behalf of the city, but also know that I am very empathetic and completely understand the point of view of our employees. And so I take that with me in all of the decisions I have about health care. It affects everybody. It affects your personal decisions on a daily basis. And so I just want to let you know I take it very seriously.
Thank you. Councilman Galloway.
I would echo that sentiment. You know, I plan to be here for another 30 or 40 years. I got to get the city to that point. So,
City council?
No, dear God, no. But living in the city certainly, and you know, we all want to make the city succeed, and the prospect of doing the things that we have to do in order to make that happen are not very much fun. It's not not a good part of the job.
Very good. Councilman Lennon.
Just almost echo the same thoughts. However, on the retiree health care issue, we will get some answers. I know right now, Mr. Bruner and Jay Marie have a lot going on, but once we get through this budget process, we're going to have to give these people a chart, a letter, and apologize to them, and find out, you know, what's covered and what's not, just like Mr. Sullivan echoed. Other than that,
Yeah.
not much right now.
All right. Thanks, Councilman. Mayor Pro Tem Baker.
Building on Mike's comment, that the thing that I wanted to say, although I try not to talk during called audience, is that an apology, I think, is where we need to start. And whether or not changes were justified is something that will be, you know, determined through this information that comes forward from the city manager's office. But I was personally appalled when I realized, because it wasn't something we voted on up here at council, but when I realized that a change had been made and people hadn't been immediately notified whether that change was justified or not. So it wasn't something I voted on, but I do apologize. It's not the type of decision that I would have made had I been in that position, and it's not the type of decision I think we should make in the future when it comes to communicating with our employees and our retirees.
Very good. I participated with Councilman Piana on the ribbon cutting for Ferndale's own bike shop. It's called Downtown Ferndale Bike Shop. They sell bicycles and do all sorts of work on bikes. It's neat. It's very close to have. Ferndale has been named once again a Tree City USA for the 8th year in a row. We are a tree city. From the director, we commend Ferndale's officials, volunteers, and its citizens for providing care for its urban forest. Trees provide numerous environmental, economic, and health benefits to millions of people. There's a lot of good reasons to plant a tree. It is Earth Month. My first Earth Day was 40 years ago when I was 13 years old, and I went and picked up trash with neighborhood kids, and 40 years later, we're still doing it. This meeting is adjourned. Thanks.
Did you got a meeting Wednesday, Bob? Pardon? Is there a meeting Wednesday?
Yeah.
That was really bad. I just did not enjoy this meeting.
I didn't either.